Even though she practically force-fed him the chicken leg, Julianne was surprisingly gentle as she fed him the rest of the meal. She'd carefully break up the rice and vegetables, blow on the spoonful to cool it, then offer it to Leo. "Try this. Is it too hot?" "It's perfect." Leo ate the spoonful of rice in one bite. "Just right. Good." Julianne nodded, scooped up another spoonful, and fed it to him. Watching her deft movements, Leo asked curiously, "Have you fed someone like this before?" "Nope. You're the first person I've ever fed in my life," Julianne said without a second thought, shaking her head. She paused. "Oh wait. When I was little, I fed the neighbor's kid a few times, but that was ages ago. I'd forgotten all about it until you asked. I knew it. The way you're feeding me, it's like you're feeding a child." "Well, you are my baby, aren't you?" Julianne blurted out, then immediately cringed at her own words and laughed. Leo laughed with her. "Who else would feed me if you weren't around?" Julianne's brow furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you planning on having other girls feed you?" "Never. I wouldn't dare. You better not." "Does my mom count?" "Of course your mom doesn't count," Julianne said, feeding another spoonful of rice into his mouth. As he ate, the image of another woman flickered in Leo's mind. She was bathed in a maternal glow, her every word and action gentle and kind, but he couldn't see her face clearly. The woman from his memory was his real mother, the one from the world outside the book, a world he was beginning to forget. Julianne had reminded him of her. After Julianne had fed him lunch and he'd finished a glucose drip, they left the campus clinic together. On the way back to the dorm, Julianne suddenly asked him a question. "Why did you suddenly quit the Student Government Association?" Leo tilted his head, looking at her, momentarily stunned. He didn't know how to answer, so he deflected. "Who told you that?" "I heard some people talking about it when I was getting food at the cafeteria." Leo pressed his lips together, silent for a few seconds. He then met her eyes and said earnestly, "The SJ, it was just too much work. It was a headache, and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I want to put all my time and energy into our relationship." But Julianne started to say something, but the words caught in her throat. After a few seconds, she nodded. "Yeah, you're right. We're getting engaged in June. We should be focusing on us." Hearing her say that, Leo let out a sigh of relief. He forced a relaxed smile. "Exactly. What could possibly be more important than you?" He took her hand, and they continued walking toward her dorm. When they reached the entrance, Leo's shoelace came undone. He bent down to tie it. Julianne walked into the lobby and, realizing he wasn't behind her, turned back to see him tying his shoe. She stood there, waiting. Then Julianne whispered, "Is there really any time left?" Her voice was so quiet. Only she could hear it. The automatic glass door slid shut. Julianne was inside the lobby. Leo was crouched just outside. They were separated by a single pane of glass. "Let's go." Leo stood up, his shoe tied, and walked inside, speaking to a dazed Julianne. "Oh, right." Julianne snapped back to reality. Time flew by, and soon it was Friday. Leo had completely forgotten about the trip to Southern California he and Julianne had planned. It wasn't his fault. His memory had been getting worse lately. Sometimes he'd forget things they'd talked about the day before. Every morning, he had to reread the content he'd written in his word processor just to restore his own memories. Julianne hadn't mentioned the trip, either. Even with Friday here, she didn't ask if he'd bought tickets or made an itinerary. It was as if they had both forgotten. But they hadn't. Julianne remembered everything. She just didn't bring it up. The past few days, she had been buried in her novel. The afternoon she signed the exclusive contract, her book was promoted on StoryForge's main page. Ads for it were plastered all over the internet. A novel that had a few 100,000 readers suddenly shot up to several million overnight. The comments section exploded, going from a few hundred comments a day to exponential growth. With fame came a cacophony of voices. Some praised her delicate prose and rich content. Others called the story cliché and poorly designed, just another worthless book propped up by the platform's golden child marketing push. The reviews were polarized. The old Julianne would have read every single one. Now, she didn't have a time. New comments refreshed every minute in her author dashboard. She couldn't read them all even if she didn't eat or sleep. After the initial burst of joy, the explosive popularity of her novel no longer thrilled her. Watching the numbers climb, she felt a strange numbness. No, maybe it wasn't numbness. It was that she had already found something that made her happier than any career success ever could. Being a kid wrapped in happiness was more important than being a great writer, right? And Leo had already given her the first one. In fact, he had also given her the second one. She just didn't know it. Or did she? After Friday's classes were over, Leo took Julianne to pick up Clara from her campus apartment and brought them back to the villa. He made them a sumptuous dinner. Afterwards, Leo said he wanted to go for a walk by himself. Julianne refused, insisting on going with him. After a long moment of hesitation, he agreed. Before they left, he hugged Clara. His words were heavy with meaning. "Thank you, Clara. You remind me so much of my mom. If I ever get to see her again, I'm going to hug her just this tightly." As Clara stared in bewilderment, Leo walked out of the villa. Clara turned to her daughter. "What's gotten into Leo?" "It's nothing, Mom." Julianne shook her head. I'll go walk with him." "All right, be back early." "Okay," Julianne replied, then hurried out to catch up with him. They walked around the perimeter of Elysian Estates for a long, long time. Suddenly, Leo said, "Come with me somewhere." "Where?" "Crescent Bay Beach." "Should we drive?" "Let's get a ride." "Okay, I'll call one." Julianne hailed an Uber on her phone, and soon they were at the beach. On a Friday night, the shore was bustling with people, but they found a quiet corner to sit, as if the surrounding noise had nothing to do with them. Swoosh! SHHH! Crash! They sat in silence for a long time. The salty, humid sea breeze gently caressed their faces. The beach at night was pitch black, a void that stretched endlessly before them. Everything was peaceful, the only sound the rhythmic rise and fall of the tide. The quiet was shattered when Leo's stomach churned again. Julianne handed him a plastic bag, and he vomited into it. Leo looked at the bag she had ready, stunned. His dazed, panicked eyes met her beautiful, fox-like ones. The nausea was too overwhelming to think. He grabbed the bag and heaved. "Ugh, wretch." When he was done, he gasped for breath. Julianne took out a tissue and gently wiped the corner of his mouth. I can do it," Leo said, trying to pull away, but Julianne grabbed his wrist. Their eyes met again. "How long are you going to hide this from me?" Julianne asked. She was too smart. Leo knew, better than anyone, that he'd already given himself away. He knew playing dumb was useless now, but he still tried, forcing a smile. "How did you know?" "I've had the stomach bug lately. I get nauseous if I eat too much." Julianne seemed to have no interest in playing house anymore. She asked him point blank, "What happens if the villainess is saved by you? Do you just disappear from this world?" Leo swallowed hard. When she said those words, he felt his heart stop. What are you talking about?" 2 lines of tears streamed down Julianne's face. Her voice choked with emotion. "So, even at the very end, you're still not willing to tell me the truth, are you?" Leo avoided her gaze, shaking his head frantically. I don't know what you're talking about." Julianne pressed him. "If I were really just some clueless idiot, would I have only found out you're not from this world on the day I truly lost you? Answer me." Leo fell completely silent. He just kept shaking his head, desperately denying everything. "Don't shake your head. Answer my question." Julianne cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to look into her eyes. She asked word by word, "Is it true? As long as my life is miserable, you won't disappear?" "No, that's not it. Absolutely not. Don't do anything stupid," Leo said, his whole body trembling. "Did you read my novel? That was just something I made up. Don't take it seriously. This is the real world. Your mission in this world was to save me, wasn't it? That's just a story. I just used your name to write a novel. Why are you taking it so seriously?" "It's not a novel, is it?" "It is a novel." "It's not," Julianne shouted, her voice thick with tears. This is the novel. I'm a fake one. Everything I've ever experienced is fake, right?" "No, you're not fake." Leo pulled her into a hug. "This world is real. You're real, and I'm real. We're all real. I was just sick before. Please don't overthink things, babe." Julianne pushed him away. "Leo Miller, stop treating me like a 3-year-old. I don't want to play this game anymore. Tell me the truth. Let me help you." Leo shook his head. "You can't help me. I have a terminal illness. I'm going to die soon." He was still lying, or rather, he was still unwilling to admit that she was right. Even though Julianne already knew everything, even though she had laid it all out on the table, Leo just wouldn't admit it. "Enough," Julianne yelled. "If you won't say it, then I will." "How about that?" She stood up, looking down at him. "My name is Julianne Hale. I'm the villainess in a book. My life was a tragedy. My childhood was spent being abused in the projects. As an adult, I killed my bastard father, and my mother took the blame, only to die of stomach cancer in prison. With no one left, I hated the world. So I grew jealous of my best friend, Serafina Rose, and framed her for things she didn't do. In the end, I jumped off a building on the day of the hero and heroine's wedding. But my resentment was too strong. After I died, I learned this was a world made of words, that my tragic life was just the careless scribbling of some bastard author. I hated him, so I dragged him into this world. And you, Leo Miller, You are the author who created this world. You came here to save me from my tragic life. When I'm finally free from that life, you'll disappear. Am I right?" After she finished, she looked at Leo, whose eyes were filled with despair. He didn't speak. He no longer shook his head in denial. He just sat there, the light gone from his eyes. After a long time, he finally opened his mouth, his voice trembling. "So, what did you read my novel? Does that matter?" Leo's voice cracked. "Was your love for me all just an act?" The moment he asked, he regretted it. It was a ridiculous question. If Julianne didn't love him, why would she continue this charade after learning the truth? "Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?" Julianne knelt down, tugging at his sleeve, hot tears welling in her eyes. "You got close to me just to complete your mission, right? You were so good to me only to make up for what you did, right? You never actually liked me, did you? You just used me as a tool to get back to your world." Yes, Leo nodded. He thought that by admitting it, Julianne would hate him. Then, even if he really did die, she would only feel hatred, not die for him. But he was wrong. Julianne wasn't that easy to fool. This wasn't some cheesy novel plot. "I don't believe you. You're lying. You're just trying to make me hate you." Julianne cried. "I remember every moment you loved me. Your eyes don't lie. You love me too." "Honey, please don't get worked up," Leo said, taking her wrist and pulling her back into his arms. "Whatever it is, just tell me. Let me help you, okay?" Julianne's voice was hoarse, and her unstoppable tears soaked his shirt, just like they had last year in the projects when she had thrown herself into his arms and cried. Last time, Leo had fixed her notebook. This time, she wanted to fix him. But Leo's answer was, "You can't help me. I was too stupid. I should have realized a long time ago. I don't belong here." Hearing his words, Julianne stopped asking questions. They held each other tightly, closed their eyes, and listened to the sound of the tide, not speaking for a very, very long time. In that moment, they were like two lovers who had broken up and gotten back together. Familiar yet strange, with so much to say, but unable to find the words, neither wanting to break the fragile peace. Ahem. After what felt like an eternity, Leo coughed twice, breaking the silence. Julianne spoke, asking a question. "Can you tell me about yourself?" "Myself. Your past." Leo was silent for a few seconds, then nodded. "What do you want to know?" "My memory. It's not what it used to be. Just tell me what you remember." "Okay." They sat back down on the sand. Just as Julianne had once told Leo her story, he now told her his. The same cramped, stifling apartment. The same tragic family. The same pitiful child. The same lonely life. Everything was so similar, so much so that Julianne felt like she was listening to her own past. It turned out that her parallel universe self had lived just as miserably. When Leo finished, she gently pulled him into her arms. Her sorrowful eyes were like those of a mother grieving for a child who had suffered so much out in the world. Leaning against her, Leo truly found that long-lost feeling of a mother's love. It felt like being a child again, unable to sleep, curled up in his mother's arms as she told him stories, lulling him to sleep in a cocoon of safety. He could barely distinguish the feeling anymore. But one thing was certain. After telling Julianne all the secrets he'd held in his heart, he felt an immense sense of relief. The weight on his chest was finally gone. He no longer had to hide anything from the person he loved. Julianne gently ran her fingers through his hair. "So, Damien is the perfect you that you imagined. Serafina is who you wanted to be, and I'm just you, right?" "Yeah, something like that." Julianne's summary was essentially what he had been thinking when he first created the book. He had poured all his dreams into the fictional Damien Sterling, shaping him into what he believed was the most perfect person in the world. He had placed all his own unfulfilled ambitions on his Serafina Rose, making her a perfect goddess who excelled at everything, was meticulous, feared no one, and was admired by all her peers. And Julianne, the villainess, was the physical manifestation of all the resentment he had accumulated over the years. She hated the world even more than he did, and she was much smarter, knowing how to get revenge on the people he despised. Only Leo himself, after writing so many books, remained that same pathetic loser, hiding in a tiny rental, having achieved nothing. Julianne asked again, "You came here to save me. If you fail to save me, does that mean you don't have to go back?" Don't do anything stupid. The moment I got you out of the projects, I had already saved you. My mission was completed long ago." Leo struggled out of her embrace, saying nervously, "We can't defy the logic of this world." Julianne asked him, "Do you remember the question you asked me?" "What question?" "The first time we came to this beach. You asked me, 'Julianne, do you believe in fate?' I said, 'I don't. I will make something of myself.'" Julianne stood up, looked out at the dark, lightless sea, then turned back to Leo with a smile. Now it's my turn to ask you. Leo, do you believe in fate? I do. The smile on the young woman's face froze instantly. She looked at the boy's dull, lifeless eyes and felt a wave of disappointment. The boy who had once encouraged her not to believe in fate, to make something of herself, had lost all his fighting spirit. How could she not be disappointed? Of course, Leo wanted to be like he was back then, to stand up, point at the sky, and yell like some cringy anime hero, "I don't believe in fate. My destiny is my own. I will make something of myself." But he was all too aware of his current physical condition. He couldn't fight the rules of this world. Being a billionaire didn't matter. This wasn't something money could solve. He wasn't chasing anything anymore. He just wanted to stay by Julianne's side, one day at a time, and welcome his death in the arms of the one he loved. No, I don't believe it. After her disappointment passed, Julianne shook her head, her eyes filled with determination. As long as you're alive for one more day, I won't give up, even if I have to risk everything. With that, Julianne pulled out her phone and dialed her editor's number. "What are you doing?" Leo scrambled to his feet to stop her. But Julianne was too fast. In his current state, Leo couldn't possibly catch her. As she ran, Julianne spoke into the phone. "Mandy, I'm so sorry to bother you this late. I just wanted to ask, is it possible to terminate my exclusive contract?" Why the sudden request to terminate? You just signed. Under normal circumstances, if you force a termination, it's a breach of contract. What are the penalties for breach of contract? The specific details are complicated. It's hard to explain over the phone. Why the sudden change of heart? Did something happen? No, nothing. I just want to know if terminating the contract would mean paying a huge penalty, the kind that would bankrupt me. You could say that, yes. The editor on the other end was completely bewildered by Julianne's late-night questions and spoke cautiously. "Okay, I'll talk to you about the details tomorrow." "Wait, what?" But before the editor could finish, Julianne hung up. When she turned around, she saw Leo sitting on the sand, gasping for breath. His body was in terrible shape now. Just walking a few steps exhausted him. Julianne immediately ran back to his side. Leo looked up at her and said helplessly, "Don't be so reckless. Even if you destroy your future, you can't save me. It's a done deal. There's nothing we can do. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it." Julianne shook her head forcefully. The loose headband she was wearing flew off, and her long hair tumbled down, whipping around her face in the wind. Leo grabbed her hand, gently trying to calm her. "Please, stop hurting yourself, okay? Just sit with me. Stay with me a little longer. Please." "What?" Looking into Leo's eyes, Julianne's heart ached, and she began to sob, her cries piercing the cold silence of the beach. "Why? Why are you doing this to me? You gave me hope to live, so why are you leaving me so cruelly? Why? Tell me why. Why? Why?" Julianne cried until her voice was raw and her eyes were dry. They sat on the beach all night. What else they talked about, they couldn't remember. They only remembered that the entire night was dark, the wind was strong, and the salty smell mixed with fine sand blew against their faces, making the long hours unbearable. The time before dawn is the darkest. The sky was utterly devoid of light. With her hoarse voice, Julianne said to Leo, "Hey, look how dark it is. You can't see anything." Leo shook his head. "Not really. It'll be beautiful when the sun comes up." Julianne suddenly chuckled. Leo asked, "What are you laughing at?" She said, "It's always darkest before the dawn. Whoever gives up first is the biggest fool." Leo put his arm around her shoulder. "With you by my side, I'll never give up." Time ticked by, and the sun finally crested the horizon, slowly illuminating the world. Julianne gently nudged Leo beside her, her voice excited. "Look, the sun's coming up." Thump! With that single nudge, Leo slumped onto the sand. Julianne turned in a panic, reaching out to check for breath under his nose. Thank God he was still breathing. At some point, Leo had passed out. If she hadn't pushed him, she wouldn't have even noticed. Julianne called 911. An ambulance arrived quickly and took them to the hospital. The doctors ran every test imaginable, but they still couldn't find anything wrong with Leo. All his vitals were normal, his brain scans clear. How could a perfectly healthy person just randomly lose consciousness? Julianne sat by his hospital bed, keeping watch. Having been up all night, she soon fell asleep, her head resting on the edge of the bed. It wasn't until noon that Leo was jolted awake by a sharp pain in his stomach. He looked at his surroundings, then at Julianne sleeping by his side. He knew he must have fainted again. Leo wanted to drape a blanket over her, but his movement woke her up. Seeing him sitting up, Julianne threw her arms around him. You're finally awake. Leo gave a bitter smile. Sorry for worrying you again. Julian didn't answer, just shook her head. After completing the discharge paperwork, they left the hospital. On the street below, they found a small fast food joint, bought 2 beef and rice bowls, and sat across from each other, eating in silence. It felt like they were having their last meal. The food at this place was cheap, so cheap it felt out of place in Ethelberg. A bowl of beef and rice was only $12, and it came with soup. The cheapest pork dish was $6. They even had a $3 bowl of plain noodles with greens. The hospital they had just left was Ethelberg's largest and most renowned cancer center. The restaurant was filled with the family members of patients from that hospital. They had come from all over, spending their last dime in search of a miracle. To them, even the $3 bowl of noodles was a luxury. So, no matter how cheap the menu or how good the food, no one in that restaurant could manage a smile. The oppressive atmosphere was like a gray filter, making their already bleak mood even worse. After they finished, Leo paid. The bill was $24, but he added several zeros to the end. When the payment confirmation tone sounded, everyone in the restaurant turned to look at him. The owner rushed out from the kitchen. Son, did you make a mistake with the payment? No mistake, Leo said casually. The extra is to buy everyone a meal. He took Julianne's hand and walked out. As they neared the door, another payment confirmation chimed through the restaurant. Venmo payment received, $54, $3.34. 50. It was every cent of Julianne's remaining royalties. She had donated it all. The customers from inside rushed out, shouting their thanks from a distance. In truth, neither of them knew why they did it. Maybe it was just so that those who had lost hope could have one full meal, find a sliver of strength, and keep on living. Even though they were the ones who had lost hope, too. As they walked, Julianne suddenly said, Leo Miller, let's get married. Married? Leo looked at her, stunned. What time do we have to get married? What do you mean, what time? Julianne pursed her lips, a playful smile on her face. Tomorrow. No, this afternoon. Let's get married this afternoon, okay. No, Leo said, his refusal sharp and absolute. What does that mean? Julianne clenched her fists, almost punching him. But then she remembered his condition and lowered her hand. Don't you want to marry me? With me like this, if you marry me. Leo paused, then continued. Do you want to spend the rest of your life clutching our wedding photo and marriage certificate, crying your eyes out until you go blind and die of a broken heart? Julianne put her hands on her hips, her voice angry. I'll die of a broken heart if I don't marry you. Come on, I'm just your boyfriend. You're only in your 20s. You have your whole life ahead of you. Why throw it all away on me? Leo said, his tone light as he discussed the heaviest topic imaginable. When I'm gone, there'll be plenty of other handsome guys waiting for you. Julianne glared at him, speaking like a petulant child. I will never love anyone but you in this life. Don't make promises like that. You'll definitely meet someone better. I don't want to. Julianne grabbed the collar of his shirt, her lips trembling. You made the first half of my life miserable. You owe me so much. You stole my heart. And now you think you can just die without marrying me? I won't allow it. You bastard, marry me right now. You bastard. Wah. Julianne lightly pounded on his chest, tears once again streaming down her face. Looking at the tear-stained girl in his arms, Leo hated himself. He hated that he had made the girl who loved him so much cry again and again. He hated that he couldn't be with her forever. If he could truly choose his own life right now, he would answer without a moment's hesitation. I want to be with Julianne Hale forever. Amidst her sobs, Leo threw all reason to the wind. Julianne Hale, let's get married. Tonight. Marriage and children. For the past 20-plus years, Leo had never considered it. As someone from an ordinary background who had experienced loss at a young age, his concept of home was fragile. He didn't crave a so-called stable life. He'd had a terrible childhood because his family had no money, and he didn't want to get married while broke and have his own children repeat his tragic past. He had sworn to himself back then, if he couldn't make something of himself, he would never marry, never have kids. Better to die alone than to irresponsibly bring children into a life of poverty. Now he was rich. He had someone he loved. He wanted that stable life. But the problem of life and death stood in his way. Sometimes he really wanted to just point at the sky and scream, "Fuck you, you piece of shit life. What more do you want from me?" But there was no time for that now. The time he and Julianne had left was short. Not a single minute could be wasted. So, with what little time remained, they would have a wedding. It would be a perfect end to this strange chapter of his life, leaving no regrets. We want to get married. At the county clerk's office, Leo and Julianne stood with their freshly retrieved birth certificates and IDs, speaking in unison. Do you have a passport-style photo with a red background? The clerk asked. No, that's fine. We could take one here. You two can use the prep room to get ready. Julian had cried all night and hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffy and her skin was dull. After a warm compress and some light makeup, her beauty was restored. Leo slicked his bangs back, using wax and hairspray to style it. Julian dusted his face with powder, contoured his cheeks, and filled in his eyebrows. She held his face in her hands and smiled. Your lips are a little dry. Leo shot back. So what do I do? Let me use some of your lipstick. My lipstick is too dark for you. As she spoke, Julianne leaned in and pressed her lips to his. When she pulled back, the color from her lips had transferred to his, bringing life to his pale mouth. Julian nodded, satisfied. They are much better. Leo blushed. What was that for? Lip balm, she said with a grin, patting his shoulder. Okay, let's go. Time for the picture. Oh, right. Okay. Dressed in borrowed white shirts, they sat in front of the red backdrop. It was their first time taking a marriage license photo, and they were both a little awkward and lost. The photographer teased them. Are you too sure you're here to get married? You're sitting so far apart. They looked at each other, smiled, and scooted closer. Good, yes, just like that, the photographer said, pleased. Hold that smile. Yes, that's it. That's how sweet you should look when you get married. Click. After a blinding flash, the photo was ready. They took the picture back to the counter, pasted it onto the form, got it stamped, and stood before a small lectern to recite their vows. After a final photo, the process was complete. They were legally married. There were a few hiccups. Marriage licenses usually required an appointment, but Leo used his connections to get it done on the spot. They also hadn't known about the vow recitation part, so Leo paid a courier an exorbitant fee to rush deliver a bouquet and a white veil. The office also offered premarital health screenings, but they declined, considering it a waste of time. Leo didn't know how much longer he had in this world. A health screening was irrelevant. Besides, they were each other's first love. It wasn't necessary. They both posted the photo of them taking their vows to their social media, with the same caption, "Today we got married." After that, their phones didn't stop buzzing. Charles Miller called Leo directly. Son, you rushed home to get your birth certificate just to marry Julianne? Why didn't you discuss something this big with your old man? Dad, I'll explain everything later when I have time. Right now, can you do me a favor? Leo's tone was pleading. Charles was silent for a few seconds before replying. Tell me, what is it? I'm marrying Julianne tonight. I want to have the wedding at Elysian Estates. Can you book the whole place for me? Why so rushed? Charles didn't refuse, but he was baffled. Can it wait until tomorrow? Come home first. We can plan the wedding properly. I'll help you arrange everything. Throw the grandest wedding imaginable. Wouldn't that be better? Dad, there's no time. On the other end of the line, Leo shook his head, though his father couldn't see. There's really no time. Please, just for tonight. It doesn't have to be grand. I just want to marry Julianne. That's all that matters. Charles fell silent. The silence stretched for so long that Leo began to wonder if he had hung up. Then, a firm, resonant voice came through the phone. All right. The weight on Leo's heart finally lifted. He felt an incredible sense of peace. When a parent unconditionally supports their child, what can't that child do? How could he not feel at ease? Julianne finished her call with her mother and turned to Leo. Were you just on the phone with Mr. Miller? MHM, Leo smiled. Still calling him Mr. Miller? It's time to start calling him Dad. It's not time for that yet, Julianne said, her cheeks flushing. Stop teasing me. What did you two talk about? I asked him to book the venue for tonight, and he agreed. A flicker of something unreadable passed through Julianne's eyes as she asked. I'm his son. Of course he had to agree. He didn't ask any questions? No. Leo shook his head. He also felt things had gone a little too smoothly. His father hadn't pressed for details. What was he thinking during that long silence? Leo didn't know, and he had no time to ponder it now. They had more important things to do. Next up, wedding photos. After leaving the county clerk's office, Leo and Julianne rushed to the largest bespoke formal wear shop in Ethelberg. They had no time to leisurely browse or try on dozens of outfits. Adhering to the principle of buy the most expensive, not the most fitting, Leo selected several of the store's priciest off-the-rack gowns and tuxedos. After a quick fitting, he paid a fortune to have the master tailors make the necessary alterations on the spot. Then, still in their formal wear, they headed to a wedding planning company for their photos. The photo shoot locations were Crescent Bay Beach and the chaotic hallways of the projects. Crescent Bay Beach was where Leo first appeared in this world and where he and Julianne fell in love. It was a fitting choice. As for why they chose the project for the second set, there was a reason for that too. Initially, they had planned to shoot at the Royal Academy, where they first met. But Leo had a last-minute change of heart. They were both children who had emerged from the projects. They shared the same history. The place might be dilapidated, but it held their purest childhood memories. After the shoot, they paid a visit to Mrs. Gable. Seeing Julianne in her beautiful gown, the old woman's eyes filled with relief and joy. When she heard they were getting married that very night, she first froze, then her eyes reddened, tears spilling from her cloudy gaze. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You silly child. Why didn't you tell Grandma sooner?" Mrs. Gable abandoned her vegetable stand and pulled Julianne toward her home. She insisted on giving Julianne the deed to her house, just as she had promised. "When you get married, Grandma will give you this house as a wedding gift." Julianne adamantly refused, but Mrs. Gable held a knife to her own throat, forcing her to accept. Seeing her so resolute, Julianne tearfully agreed, silently vowing to bring Mrs. Gable to live with them after the wedding and care for her for the rest of her days. Standing behind Julianne, Leo finally spoke. "Grandma, I drove here. We're getting married tonight. Why don't you come with us to the venue now? No rush, no rush." Mrs. Gable beamed, her face a canvas of wrinkles, her eyes squinted into slits. She waved her hand. "You two go on ahead. I need to get ready. I have to look my best for my Jules' wedding. You go." Like many elderly people, she repeated herself for emphasis. Leo and Julianne exchanged a look and nodded. "Then I'll send someone to pick you up tonight." "Okay. Yes, that's fine. You two go on, get busy now." Mrs. Gable waved her hand. At her urging, they left, went downstairs, got in the car, and drove away from the projects. Watching the car disappear into the distance, Mrs. Gable's cloudy eyes suddenly cleared. For a moment, she looked years younger. "I'm sorry, Jules," she whispered to herself. "Grandma might not be able to make it to your wedding." She walked slowly back into her apartment and sat down in her favorite wicker chair. There were two of them, side by side. The other one had a broken leg. Mrs. Gable had never fixed it, nor had she thrown it away. It just leaned against the wall. Before Julianne's grandmother, Flora, had passed away, they would sit in those chairs and chat. After Flora died, the chair's leg broke. Sitting down, Mrs. Gable pulled a warm, 3-inch photo from her pocket. It was a picture of two women in their 60s, the only one she had with Julianne's grandmother. "Flora, so many years have passed in the blink of an eye. Are you doing okay? Our Jules is all grown up now. She's getting married tonight. She looks so beautiful in her wedding dress, even more beautiful than you used to tell me she would be. And Clara, I hear she has an office job at the university. She's made something of herself, too." As she spoke, Mrs. Gable gently patted the armrest of the broken chair, as if chatting with her old friend after dinner. Her eyelids grew heavier, and her breathing slowed. In truth, after giving away the deed, she knew she didn't have much time left. That's why she had rushed them out. Her final wish fulfilled, she could now go to heaven and report to her old friend with a clear conscience. A smile on her lips, Mrs. Gable drifted into a deep sleep, a sleep from which she would never wake. Leo and Julianne didn't even have a moment to mourn. After leaving Mrs. Gable's, they rushed to a jewelry store to buy gold accessories and wedding rings. Once that was done, they went back to the wedding company to pick up the finished photos and ceremony posters. These things would normally take 2 or 3 days, but that didn't matter. In this world, Leo had the superpower of being rich. An hour after the photo shoot, everything they needed was ready. The photos were beautiful, and the editing was flawless. The set from the projects was particularly striking. He and Julianne, in their gorgeous attire, stood in a crowded, dilapidated hallway, like two vibrant flowers blooming from ruins. It was exactly the feeling they wanted. They collected their things and immediately headed for Elysian Estates. The wedding company had tried to sell them a videography package, but Leo refused. Charles had already taken care of it. Charles himself was in a whirlwind. Transforming the massive Elysian Estates into a wedding venue in a single afternoon was a challenge, made even harder by the lack of prior planning. Everything was based on his gut feeling. Although a professional team was on site, Charles, as the man in charge, was personally overseeing many details. This was his son's wedding, after all. It had to be perfect. Of course, it wasn't just the Miller family in a frenzy. After Leo and Julianne's sudden announcement, every family and individual connected to them in Ethelberg was thrown into a flurry of activity. The Sterlings, the Roses, the Coles, the Songs, and even the on-the-verge-of-bankruptcy Jeongs. Not a single family was idle that afternoon. Serafina, Rose, and Damien Sterling, already in their formal attire, were about to leave for Elysian Estates. Damien Sterling, already in their formal attire, were about to leave for Elysian Estates. Donovan Sterling was still at the office, swamped with work, but he would definitely attend the wedding tonight. The Miller family was now a force on par with the Sterlings. Maintaining good relations was essential. Alistair Sterling was also going, accompanying Susie Stone and her parents. The Stone family owed a great debt to Julianne. They wouldn't miss her wedding for the world. At the Rose family's corporate headquarters, Mr. Rose was about to leave when he received a phone call. Without even packing his things, he rushed out of the company. Ethan Cole had left his family's estate early. After picking up Jessica, he also grabbed Chloe and Tyler Yu. Tyler even brought his younger sister, Talia. Fortunately, Ethan had his driver bring a luxury van, so the 6 of them fit comfortably. Audrey and Dylan Song were also on their way. Their father, Theodore, had been about to leave with them, but had also received a sudden call. He told his children to go on ahead while he handled something. At the Jiang estate, Victor and Jason Jiang paced anxiously, waiting for something. The morning Marcus Sterling fell. The Jiang family home was stripped bare. The father-son duo had sold everything valuable, transferred the money to offshore accounts, and were planning to flee. But a small snag had appeared. Now they had to do something dangerous to get their assets back. However, with great risk came great reward. If their bet paid off, the Jiang family could still make a comeback. So, they were gambling. This was the state of Ethelberg's major powers. Half an hour later, Damien and Serafina were the first to arrive at Elysian Estates. After parking, they prepared to take the helicopter to the island. A quick note, the wedding venue was on a small island in the estate's lake, accessible only by boat or helicopter. To elevate the event's prestige, Charles Miller had canceled the ferry service and arranged for over a dozen helicopters to shuttle guests from the helipad. Elysian Estates was the place Leo had originally written for Damien and Serafina's wedding. Now, he was using it first. Should we wait for them? Serafina, who was texting Julianne, tugged on Damien's sleeve. Jules just told me they're at the main gate. Sure, Damien nodded readily. We can ask Miller what's going on. This wedding is way too sudden. I asked Jules. She said she'd explain in person, Serafina said, clutching her handbag, a hint of nervousness in her voice. I have a bad feeling about this. Damien's eyes widened. He turned to her. Now that you say that, I just realized Miller hasn't texted me back in ages. Crap, you don't think something happened to him, do you? Don't say that. Stop jinxing it. Serafina lightly slapped his shoulder. Think positive. Maybe Jules is pregnant, and that's why they're in such a hurry to get married. Hey, that's a real possibility. Damien stroked his chin, nodding thoughtfully. After a moment, he glanced down at Serafina's stomach. What are you looking at? Serafina noticed his gaze and tapped him on the forehead, blushing. I have no intention of being a young mom. Thank you very much. I am. Damien coughed awkwardly. That's not it, babe. I was just thinking about what we should name our future kids. How could you think that of me? Serafina pointed a finger at him, feigning sternness. Naming our kids is something to think about in the future. You're not allowed to think about it now. Damien snapped to attention and gave her a sharp salute. Yes, ma'am. Retracting those thoughts immediately. Serafina burst out laughing at his goofy act. What kind of idiot boyfriend did I end up with? She muttered to herself. Damien grinned, scratching his head. Just then, a vintage Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of them. It was Leo's car. Julian stepped out and said jokingly, Be careful with all this PDA on the main road. You might get hit by a car. Damien laughed back. Coming from you two, who are constantly all over each other in public. Yeah, well, lovebirds die young, as they say. Leo's voice drifted from the car before he even got out. I used to not believe it. Now I do. Dude, you can't joke about that, Damien said, frowning. He felt something was off about Leo's remark. Julian stated coldly, He's not joking. What? Damien and Serafina exclaimed, their heads snapping toward Julianne. Leo, having parked the car, walked slowly toward them. He looked fine, apart from the exhaustion in his eyes. Miller, you. Damien opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but the words were stuck in his throat. He couldn't very well ask, Dude, are you dying? From too much PDA? Serafina asked, What's going on? Leo looked at their anxious faces and gave a bitter smile. He didn't want to explain. He didn't know how to tell his best friends that he was about to leave this world. So, he turned to Julianne. Leo has a terminal illness, Julianne said, reciting the line they had rehearsed in the car. Leo, he doesn't have much time left. The secrets of this world, and Leo's own secret, were impossible to explain. Even if they wanted to, there wasn't time. A terminal illness was the only plausible excuse. And yet, even though it was an excuse, as Julianne said the words, doesn't have much time left, her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Who in the world could bear to announce that the person they loved most was dying? The moment the words left her mouth, Damien and Serafina's minds went blank. It felt like something had just exploded in their heads. Are you kidding me? Damien grabbed Leo's shoulders and shook him. You're joking, right, Miller? You look perfectly fine. How could you not have much time left? You're just messing with me, right? Stop shaking me. You're making me dizzy, Leo said, pushing Damien's hands away with a weary smile. I'm not lying. I really do have a terminal illness. The kind they can't cure. I don't believe it. Damien shook his head, his eyes fixed on Leo. I refuse to believe there's a disease in this world that can't be cured. I'll find you doctors, the best doctors in the world. I'll make sure you get better. Damien whipped out his phone and made a call. I want the files on the world's top medical teams in 3 minutes. If you're 1 second late, I'll make sure your whole family pays the price. Hearing that classic alpha billionaire line, Leo felt a wave of nostalgia. It had been a while. He had really changed so many people. If it weren't for that one line, he might have forgotten what the original Damien Sterling was even like. He hadn't just changed people, he'd changed events. He thought that maybe it was because he had altered so much of the original plot that the rules of this world were now punishing him ahead of schedule. Leo took the phone from Damien's hand and spoke to the person on the other end. Damien's had a bit too much to drink. Don't listen to him. He hung up and stuffed the phone back into Damien's pocket. Give it up. My disease can't be cured. Why? Why won't you even try? Damien stared at Leo, completely bewildered. Miller, no matter what you have, I'll arrange for the best doctors in the world to treat you. I'm not asking you for money. What are you worried about? This disease, it's complicated. It's not a matter of treatment, Leo said, shaking his head with another sad smile. It really can't be cured. Damien shook his head. I don't believe you. Babe, calm down, Serafina said, tugging on Damien's sleeve. She looked at Leo, her voice tense. Leo, don't panic. The Rose family built its fortune on medical technology. My grandfather is a master of traditional medicine. There are things Western medicine can't fix that traditional methods might be able to. Don't you dare give up. Standing to the side, Julianne watched Damien, who was getting emotional over his friend's diagnosis, and Serafina, who was also starting to panic. Her expression grew subtle, her eyes complex. No one knew what she was thinking. The three of them hadn't even noticed the change in her expression. Leo looked at his two frantic friends, momentarily at a loss for words. But a warmth spread through his chest. It was a warmth different from love or family. It was friendship. Without even realizing it, he had become the best of friends with the two perfect versions of himself from his own writing. To calm them down, Leo went along with what they were saying. Fine. After Julianne and I get married, I'll go see your grandfather. Maybe traditional medicine really can cure me. Good. Damien nodded repeatedly. Those quacks you saw must have been lying to you. You can't give up on treatment. Serafina chimed in. Yes. My grandfather can definitely help you. At that moment, Julian finally spoke. Let's put this aside for now. We should get to the island. Right. One helicopter could only seat 4 people, including the pilot, leaving 3 passenger seats. No matter how they arranged it, one of them would have to fly alone. So, they split into 2 pairs and took 2 helicopters. The flight to the island was short, just 3 or 4 minutes round trip, most of which was spent on takeoff and landing. Looking down from the helicopter, they saw a small, raised island in the middle of a turquoise lake. The island's silhouette resembled a crouching golden toad, a classic symbol of wealth in feng shui. It was Leo and Julianne's first time in a helicopter. They should have been excited, but they felt nothing. They had no interest in seeing the golden toad gathering treasure. It wasn't just them. In a helicopter behind them, Damien and Serafina's moods were just as grim. They had come to their best friend's wedding, full of joy, only to find out one of them was dying. Who could be happy about that? After dropping the 4 of them off, the helicopters flew back to the main helipad. In just one afternoon, the entire island had been transformed into a pink and white dreamscape. Charles Miller, it turned out, had a perfect grasp of the kind of wedding decor young people loved, though he had taken some advice. As soon as Leo stepped off the helicopter, several servants approached. Young master, you've arrived. The master is in the courtyard, supervising the setup. Allow us to take you there. What's all this? Leo pointed to the pile of wedding posters and a box of decorations they'd brought from the wedding company. These are the signs and posters for the entrance. Go set them up. Be careful not to damage anything. There are 2 more boxes on the way with our wedding clothes and accessories. Take them to our private dressing room. Yes, young master. Right away, young master. After the servants left with the items, Leo led the other 3 into the largest building of the estate. Inside, staff were meticulously decorating every corner. In the backyard, a wedding stage was being erected, A seamless screen over 30 feet high and 100 feet wide, covering several thousand square feet. Who has a wedding with a stage that massive? The screen was so big that people on the mainland could read the words on it. Any unsuspecting passerby would think there was a concert or music festival happening on the island. Leo couldn't see Charles or Michelle anywhere. He glanced at his watch and turned to Julianne. Babe, the clothes should be here soon. Why don't you take Serafina to get changed and do your makeup? I'll go find my dad to coordinate the wedding plans. Julianne nodded immediately. Okay. Damien pointed at his own face. What about me? What do you need me to do? Leo glanced at him and waved his hand dismissively. Nothing. You can go play. Young mistress, your and the young master's clothes are all here. Okay, thank you. You can go now. Of course. Please let us know if you need anything. Serafina was helping Julianne with her makeup. Two maids, after setting down the two large cases of clothes and accessories, quickly left the room, not wanting to disturb them. As Serafina carefully filled in Julianne's eyebrows, she said, Jules, I feel like I'm in a daze. Julianne hummed, then asked, why do you say that? You and I became friends on the same day. Then we started dating our boyfriends on the same day. Now, only half a year later, you're getting married. Serafina's voice was filled with emotion. The last time I did your makeup like this was for your first date with Leo. Time flies, doesn't it? It all feels a bit unreal. In fact, Serafina had taught Julianne everything she knew about makeup. Before college, Julianne had never been able to afford it. The first time she ever wore makeup was when Serafina did it for her, right after Leo had asked her out to dinner. And that was the night she had won her first ever grand prize at the mall, a complete office equipment set. Only now did she know that Leo had bought her that entire setup. The grand prize had been designed specifically for her to win. At the time, she had naively believed it was just good luck. If she had found out the truth back then, she probably would have been angry, returned everything, and ignored him for a long, long time. But now, she couldn't bring herself to be mad. The lengths he had gone to, just to give her a computer so she could start her writing career. In a way, it was almost touching how much effort he'd put in. Time really did wash away and change so many things. Back then, she would have died before accepting a handout from Leo. After they started dating, she had slowly accepted his disguised form of sponsoring her. Now, she couldn't imagine life without him. His kindness had made her dependent on him. The once invincible, strong young woman now had a second weakness besides her mother. And it was also that night, drunk, that she had kissed Leo. She had learned about that from his book, too. Thinking back, it seemed right. What a shame she had been drunk. She would have loved to see his dumbfounded face when she'd suddenly kissed him. Julianne couldn't help but let out a small laugh, her long eyelashes fluttering like the wings of a butterfly. Serafina asked her, "What's so funny?" "Thinking of something happy." Julianne nodded. "I was just remembering some things from my first date with Leo. So many memories from that first time I wore makeup." "Thank you, Serafina." Serafina asked, confused. "What are you thanking me for?" "For helping me with my makeup. And later, in the dorm, for being so patient while you taught me." Serafina shook her head. "Don't say that. We're best friends. You don't need to thank me for something so small." "Yeah, we're best friends." Julianne opened her eyes and stared at Serafina's flawless face as she worked. She pursed her lips and smiled faintly. Up close, Serafina's face was truly perfect. Julianne had never noticed before, but now she saw it. Serafina really did have the face of a classic heroine. Serafina sensed something was off about Julianne's gaze, about her smile. She assumed it was because of Leo's illness. So, she said in a comforting tone, "Jules, I know you're having a hard time right now. I can't imagine how you feel, but today is your big day. Try to look on the bright side. Things might not be as bad as they seem. Maybe a miracle will happen, right?" Julianne nodded, then whispered to herself, "It'll be okay. Everything will be okay." After Serafina finished, Julianne didn't rush to put on her wedding dress. "Serafina," she said, "let me do your makeup now." "What?" Serafina asked, surprised. "You want to do my makeup? Now?" "Here." Julianne smiled and nodded. "Your face is so beautiful. Let me practice on you. You don't mind, do you?" "Of course I don't mind." Serafina shook her head. "But is now really the right time? Your wedding is more important. You could do my makeup some other time." "It's fine. The wedding isn't for a few more hours. We have time." Julianne picked up a glass of water from the table and handed it to Serafina. It was just a spur-of-the-moment idea. "Let me try. I might not be in the mood next time." "Well, okay." Serafina, who had been standing for a while, was indeed a bit tired. She took a few sips of water and sat down properly in front of the mirror, letting Julianne do her makeup, occasionally offering a tip. Serafina, thank you. MHM. Serafina looked up at her. Why are you thanking me again? I'm just feeling a little emotional, I guess, Julianne said, carefully lining Serafina's lips. You said you felt like you were in a daze while doing my makeup. I feel the same way. Honestly, Serafina, I'm so glad we became friends. You're the best friend I've ever had. All these years, you're the first girl my age who ever wanted to be my friend. You taught me so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Serafina. As Julianne spoke, her voice began to crack. Serafina quickly grabbed her hand. Jules, don't get so emotional. I'm so happy we became friends too. You're the kindest girl my age I've ever met. You taught me so many things no one else ever did. We're going to be best friends for life. Even then, Serafina still thought Julianne's emotional outburst was because of Leo's illness, that she couldn't control her feelings. Until Julianne spoke her next words. That's impossible. We probably won't have the chance to be friends anymore in this lifetime. Julianne's eyes suddenly turned cold. She stared straight at Serafina's face. I'm sorry, Serafina. I'll repay my debt to you in the next life. In the next life, we'll be the best of friends again for a lifetime. As she finished, the lip liner in her hand drew a sharp line past the corner of Serafina's mouth. The deep red color looked as if her lips had been cut open. In an instant, Serafina felt a chill run down her spine. Her eyes widened in terror. Jules, she asked frantically, what are you talking about? I'm sorry, Serafina. I'm so sorry. Tears streamed from Julianne's eyes, ruining the makeup Serafina had so carefully applied. What were you even saying? Serafina was still bewildered. What did you do to me? I'm truly sorry. Julianne dropped the lip liner and hugged her tightly, her choked, sobbing voice whispering in Serafina's ear. You can be angry with me. You can hate me. It's all okay. I'm sorry. I had my reasons. Jules, you're not making any sense. Wait, what's happening to me? Serafina finally realized her thoughts were slowing, her speech becoming slurred. It took her a few seconds to remember the glass of water Julianne had given her. She pushed Julianne away by the shoulders and stared into her eyes. Jules, what did you put in that water? Julianne shook her head forcefully, her eyes now numb and devoid of light. It's okay, don't be scared. It was just a little sleeping pill. Now, Serafina's eyes were filled with nothing but shock. She couldn't believe it. Her best friend had drugged her on her wedding day. Just half an hour ago, she had been happily doing her makeup. She had trusted her completely. You. Serafina felt her eyelids growing heavy. An overwhelming wave of drowsiness washed over her. She wanted to say more, but her mouth hung open, no sound coming out. Sleep now, sleep. Julianne raised a hand and gently pressed, guiding Serafina's eyes shut. Leo had searched the entire estate, but couldn't find his parents. Exhausted, he let Damien help him sit down on the grass by the lake. Across the water, a row of uniquely designed villas stood, no two alike. It was only April, but the breeze off the lake was already starting to feel warm. After a few minutes, Leo felt tired even just from sitting. He lay down on the grass. Miller. Damien, seeing how weak Leo was, swallowed the words he was about to say. Leo turned his head to look at Damien, sitting beside him. What's up? Why'd you stop talking? Damien shook his head. It's nothing. Spit it out, Leo grumbled. Since when did we start beating around the bush? It's not important. Just wanted to ask you something. So ask. Looking at you now, I don't have the heart to ask. Leo shook his head. If it's about my condition, I'm not telling you anything. So if that's what you were going to ask, you could just give up. Get out of here. So, what did you want to ask me? I wanted to ask you, what does it feel like to get married? What does it feel like? Leo was stunned by the question. The wedding had been so sudden, so rushed, that he hadn't had a chance to feel anything. He had just been completing tasks, one after another, with no time for reflection. If Damien hadn't asked, he wouldn't have even thought about it. Thinking back on the whirlwind of the afternoon, Leo uttered a single word. Tiring. Just tiring. Damien pressed. You're about to marry the girl you love. Aren't you excited? No. Leo shook his head. Not only am I not excited, I actually feel guilty. Damien grunted, confused. Leo explained, this wedding, if Julian hadn't insisted, I probably wouldn't have gone through with it. I'm a dying man. Marrying her, it's just completely irresponsible. Honestly, thinking about it now, I kind of regret it. I knew my time was short, and yet, I really shouldn't have been so selfish. Hearing this, Damien's expression froze. His throat tightened. There were so many things he wanted to say, but he couldn't get a single word out. Miller, you have to look on the bright side, Damien said, gently patting Leo's shoulder. Maybe you were misdiagnosed. And besides, I'm just saying if you did pass away without having a proper wedding with Julianne, wouldn't that be a different kind of cruelty to her? Leo didn't respond. He just stared at the soft, white clouds drifting across the blue sky, his thoughts wandering off to some distant place. Seeing him fall silent, Damien quieted down too, watching the water. Beep beep. The silence was broken by the sound of Damien's phone. The notification pulled them both back to reality. Who's texting you? Leo glanced at him. It's from Serafina, Damien said, holding up his phone. She's asking me to come to the room. She probably needs to talk to me about something. Leo waved a hand at him. Then you should go. Don't keep your girlfriend waiting. She'll get angry. What about you? Damien looked at Leo. In your condition, I'm not comfortable leaving you here alone. What's there to be not comfortable about? There's staff walking around everywhere. It's not like I'm going to drop dead right here. Leo joked, his tone light. Don't say that. Stop saying such unlucky things. Damien glared at him, stood up, and dusted off his pants. You lie here. I'll be right back. With that, Damien ran toward the main building. Phew. Suddenly so tired, Leo muttered to himself, glancing at his watch. Still have some time. I'll just rest my eyes for a bit. He slowly closed them. Lying on the grass, Leo Miller actually fell asleep. And he had a dream. He dreamed of a little girl crying. He walked up and asked her why she was crying, but the little girl just looked up at him, silent. So Leo knelt, pulled a lollipop from his pocket, and offered it to her. After taking the lollipop, the little girl finally spoke. She said her mommy was gone. Leo promised to help her find her. The little girl nodded happily, unwrapped the lollipop, and licked it, a smile spreading across her face. Thank you for helping me find my mommy, she said, her voice bright. You should hurry home to your mommy, too. Goodbye. Huh? Leo asked, confused. I haven't even helped you look yet. How did you find her so fast? My mommy's right here. The girl pulled the lollipop from her mouth and pointed behind him. Leo turned. There was nothing there but an empty expanse of grass. I don't see your mom, he said, turning back. But the little girl was gone, too, and in his hand he felt something sticky. He looked down and saw the very same lollipop he had just given away. As confusion swirled around him, a voice whispered in his ear. Little brother, how about I help you find your mommy? Leo turned toward the sound and found Julianne Hale standing beside him, a detail he hadn't noticed until now. In the dream's logic, she had become him, the one offering comfort, and he had become the small child clutching the lollipop. He was a little kid. He opened his mouth to say something to Julianne, but no sound came out. He watched her kneel, her hand gently touching his forehead. Leo Miller. Wake up, Leo. Don't fall asleep. Leo jolted awake, his breath catching in his throat. The first thing he saw was Julianne, dressed in a breathtaking, modern take on a traditional formal gown. The dress was a vibrant, fiery red silk, with intricate gold embroidery that snaked across the fabric. A golden phoenix was stitched over her heart, so vivid it looked as if it might take flight at any moment. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, with a few playful curls escaping to brush against her shoulders, adding a touch of charm. Her makeup was flawless, her lips a striking crimson that outlined their perfect shape. But it was her foxy eyes, enhanced by the meticulous makeup, that seemed to glow with a captivating, almost dangerous allure, as if they could steal a man's soul. Leo stared, his gaze completely vacant. Seeing his dazed expression, Julianne asked nervously, You haven't forgotten my name, have you? You know who I am, right? With Leo's memory getting worse, she worried every time he fell asleep that he might wake up and not know her at all. Hearing her words, Leo deliberately put on a goofy look. You're Julianne Hale, he answered. My wife. Get out of here. Julianne playfully kicked his shin with her embroidered satin shoes. This is no time for jokes. Get up and change your clothes. Okay. Leo pushed himself up from the soft grass into a sitting position. He looked her up and down, then asked, Why aren't you wearing a white wedding dress? Julianne shook her head. A big dress like that is a pain to walk in. The train gets caught on everything. I'll change into it right before the ceremony begins. Don't be late, Leo reminded her. You don't need to worry about that. You dummy, she said with a laugh. Come on. Wait, Leo said, holding out his hand. Give me a pull. I can't get up. Julianne frowned, but took his hand. As she pulled him to his feet, she asked, You don't have any strength at all? It's not that. My legs are just asleep. Once he was standing, Leo didn't let go of her hand. Instead, he wrapped his other arm around her waist, pulled her close, and planted a kiss on her lips. Mwah. You pervert. Julianne feigned disgust, lightly slapping his chest. I get all dolled up, and you immediately take advantage. You're terrible. Leo shook his head, feigning innocence. Nope. My lips were just a little dry. I needed some lipstick. Get out of here. Julianne slapped his chest again, a little harder this time. Leo grinned. He stared at her makeup. My wife looks so beautiful all done up. It would be a waste of cosmetics if I didn't kiss her a few more times. As he studied her face, he noticed the makeup under her eyes was slightly smudged. He didn't think much of it, figuring it was probably some new, edgy makeup style he, as a guy, just didn't understand. I didn't get all dressed up for you, Julian teased, poking his head. Look at you, so full of yourself. Fine, fine. I won't look. I'll go find some other pretty girls to look at. You dare. Just as Leo started to turn his head, Julianne grabbed his chin and yanked it back. Still thinking about other girls? Get in there and change. She pulled Leo toward the winery's main building. The private dressing room was empty, save for several outfits for both of them hanging neatly on a rack. Hey, Leo said, looking around. Where are Damien and Serafina? Why aren't they here? I don't know, Julianne said, her expression blank as she shook her head. They were here a minute ago. Maybe they went out. Humph. I bet he took his girlfriend down to the lawn by the lake to look for me. Leo pulled out his phone and opened his messaging app. What are you doing? Julianne asked, just sending him a message. As he spoke, Leo had already typed and sent it. Seeing that he was only messaging, Julianne's slightly furrowed brow relaxed. Okay, hurry up and change, she urged. Do I have to? A hint of resistance was in Leo's eyes. Of course, Julianne nodded without hesitation. Tonight is the most important moment of your life. You have to show everyone your most perfect self. All right, her words convinced him. After changing, Leo sat in front of the vanity mirror, quietly watching as Julianne began dabbing various creams and powders onto his face. Julianne was incredibly focused as she applied Leo's makeup, just as Serafina had been the first time she'd done hers. She spent over half an hour on it, showing more patience than she ever did for herself. When she was finished, she studied his face and nodded with satisfaction. Lily, open your eyes. What do you think? There was no response. The makeup session had been so long that Leo had fallen asleep in a chair. Julianne blinked, then frowned, muttering to herself. He fell asleep, just sitting there. Huh, in his light sleep? Leo heard her, and his eyes fluttered open. Is it done? Julianne nodded, her voice filled with concern. Are you holding up okay? Do you want to lie down on the bed and rest for a bit? No, I'm fine. Leo shook his head. I'm okay. Besides, the wedding is about to start. There's no time to rest. After sitting for so long, Leo felt thirsty. Seeing a water glass on the vanity, he asked, Is there any water? I'm a little thirsty. That's Serafina's glass from earlier, Julianne said, pushing it further onto the counter. If you're thirsty, I can have someone bring up some bottled water. Don't worry about it. I'll get someone, Leo said, standing up. You go change into your wedding dress. Okay. Leo stepped out of the room and waved at a server in the hallway, who immediately hurried over. Sir, what can I get for you? Bring me a bottle of mineral water. Just mineral water. Right away. The server nodded, dashed downstairs, and returned moments later with a bottle of water on a small tray. Great, thanks. You can go, Leo said, taking the water and waving him off. You're welcome, sir. It's my pleasure. The server smiled and went back to his duties. Leo carefully inspected the water bottle, checking the seal and the body of the bottle. Only after finding nothing wrong did he twist the cap and take a drink. He had become this cautious because of the poisoning incidents he had personally experienced. He had to be on guard, especially at an important event like his wedding. He didn't have much time left, and if something went wrong now, he'd truly be out of luck. Gulp, gulp. He chugged down the water. The cool liquid slid down his hot throat, and his burning body temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. He suspected he was coming down with a cold. Ever since waking up on the grass, he'd felt his temperature steadily rising, and his whole body felt weak. First, it was just forgetfulness, then the chest pains, then the stomach aches and nausea, then the nosebleeds that wouldn't stop. And now, there wasn't a single bone or muscle in his body that didn't ache. So, he really couldn't tell if he had a cold or if it was just his body failing. This terrible physical state gave him a chilling premonition. The next time he closed his eyes to sleep, he might never wake up. Even so, Leo endured all the discomfort. Getting married to Julianne, that was something he was doing on pure willpower alone. Click! The door to the room slowly opened, and a cascade of white fabric was the first thing to enter his vision. Julianne emerged, her figure graceful as she walked out. The train of her white dress flowed behind her like a cloud, spreading lightly with her steps, creating a dreamy and elegant silhouette. The pristine white gown was like satin snow, pure and delicate, making Julian look like a princess from a fairy tale, radiating a sacred, enchanting aura. This wasn't the same dress from the photo shoot that afternoon. This was the one Leo had a bespoke dressmaker rush alter for her. It fit her better than the one she'd worn earlier, more perfect. It had been custom-tailored, after all. Leo stared, completely mesmerized. The water bottle in his hand slipped and fell to the floor with a soft thud. Julian gathered her skirt, looking at Leo with expectant eyes. Is it beautiful? Beautiful, so beautiful. You're an angel come down to earth. Leo nodded his head rapidly like a chick pecking at grain, his words tumbling out. You're so gorgeous, babe. Seeing his reaction, Julianne covered her mouth and giggled. Does that mean I'm not usually beautiful? No. Leo immediately shook his head. You're always beautiful. But today you're exceptionally beautiful. As a novelist, Leo found himself at a loss for words. Looking at Julianne in her wedding dress, her makeup perfect, looking utterly flawless, he couldn't find the right adjectives to express what he felt. Which one is prettier? Julianne asked. This dress or the red one? Leo smiled. They're two different kinds of beautiful. Oh, you smooth talker. I'm not. I'm telling the truth. The thought of a stunning woman like you becoming my wife any minute now. I can't even keep the smile off my face. Really? Julianne tilted his chin up, carefully inspecting the makeup she had applied. She nodded in satisfaction. The makeup I did for you today looks great, too. You're much more pleasing to the eye. Leo joked. Then you should do my makeup every day. That way I could be pleasing to the eye every day. His casual joke made Julianne fall silent. A flash of sorrow crossed her eyes. She bit her lip and forced a bitter smile. This is the first time I've ever done your makeup, and it might be the last. Hey, why so sentimental all of a sudden? Leo gently cupped her face, looking into her eyes. He shook his head and said in the lightest tone he could manage, If there's a next life, I'll find you sooner. And I'll pester you to do my makeup every single day. You. Hearing his words, tears instantly welled up in Julianne's eyes. Leo quickly used his thumb to wipe away a tear from the corner of her eye. Don't cry, don't cry. If you cry, your makeup will run, and you won't look pretty for the wedding. I hate you. Julianne pounded his chest. You made me cry again. I hate you, I hate you. Leo gave a sheepish smile. Their eyes met. Leo tilted his head, his lips slowly moving toward hers. But Julianne didn't close her eyes and wait. She preempted him, standing on her toes and pressing her lips to his. Moi. Just as they kissed, Clara Hale's voice echoed from down the hall. Leo, Jules, are you ready? The guests have almost all arrived. As Clara Hale finished speaking, she caught sight of Leo and Julianne hastily pulling apart. Getting caught kissing in the hallway by her mom was definitely awkward. Leo blushed and called out, We're coming down now, Clara. All right. Okay, Clara said, a little flustered herself. She nodded and headed back downstairs. Soon, Leo and Julianne arrived at the outdoor venue. The wedding host was on stage, a top-tier MC from Ethelberg's main television station. Charles Miller hadn't paid a dime to get him. The man had eagerly offered his services. The reason was simple. The Miller family was powerful. Hosting the wedding for the Miller heir was a chance to network with titans of industry. It was a badge of honor, a boost to his career, and it would allow him to command higher fees from other wealthy families in the future. At the host call, Leo walked onto the massive, seamless screen stage. Wow, look everyone. Our groom is so handsome and dashing, the host said, walking over and taking Leo's hand, leading him to the center of the stage. I'd like to ask our groom, how are you feeling right now? He held the microphone to Leo's lips. Excited, very emotional, and a bit dazed, Leo said, his gaze falling on Charles and Michelle in the audience. Clara was sitting beside Michelle. The three parents were looking at him with kind, loving eyes. Leo gave them a small smile and then scanned the rest of the guests. From the Song family, Audrey and Dylan were there. Ethan Cole sat behind them, next to Jessica, Chloe, Tyler Yu, and Talia Yu. Talia was clapping softly for him, looking rather cute. Alistair Sterling was in the third row, along with Big Mike Stone and his wife. But Susie was missing. She must have gone backstage to be with Julianne. Leo scanned the crowd again, but saw no sign of Damian Sterling or Serafina Rose. Not only that, but the elders of the other four families, besides the Jeongs, were all absent. Even the special seat he had reserved in the front row for Mrs. Gable was empty. As Leo mentally tallied the guests, his brow furrowed. An inexplicable unease settled in his heart. This wedding, it has to go smoothly. It just has to. While Leo was lost in thought, the host finished his opening remarks. Charles had specifically instructed him beforehand to keep the ceremony brief and simple. so he skipped the usual barrage of questions meant to liven things up. My friends, I'm sure you're all dying to know what our leading lady looks like tonight. Without further ado, let's give our loudest, most enthusiastic round of applause and welcome our beautiful bride to the stage. Clap, clap, clap. Instantly, a thunderous applause erupted, heating up the atmosphere. Across from the main stage, a gazebo decorated with pristine white flowers, which had been hidden in darkness, was suddenly illuminated. The light was soft and warm, like moonlight, casting a dreamlike halo around the structure. In a flash, all eyes were fixed on this second, enchanting stage. And there, standing in the center of the gazebo, was Julianne. Her posture was elegant, like a white camellia blooming in the moonlight. Her face held a gentle smile, her eyes full of anticipation. She had been waiting there all along, but few had noticed, as everyone's attention had initially been on Leo. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Julianne began to walk. Behind her, also in an expensive formal gown, was Susie Stone, holding the train of her dress. In less than a month since rejoining the Sterling family, Susie's style and demeanor had undergone a dramatic transformation. She now carried herself like the daughter of a prominent family. Money, Leo mused, really did change a person. Holding the train was supposed to be Serafina's job as the maid of honor, but she was nowhere to be found at such a crucial moment. The worry in Leo's heart deepened. If he weren't standing on stage, he would have already pulled out his phone to call Damien and Serafina. A wedding where the best man and maid of honor both disappear? That made no sense. The host smiled. Our bride is truly. He rattled off a string of compliments. Groom, what do you think now that you see your bride? Leo raised the microphone and shouted without hesitation. My wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. Ha ha ha. Praised so openly in front of so many people, Julian shyly lowered her head, her cheeks flushing red. The host teased. It seems our groom is a bit excited. The ceremony has just begun, and he's already calling her wife. Ha ha. The rest of the ceremony followed the typical flow. The couple bowed, parents came on stage to give gifts and speeches. It was all very standard. Charles Miller, as the groom's father, was the first to speak. He took the microphone and looked at Leo, his expression complex. From his father's eyes, Leo sensed that something was wrong. Charles, who was severely nearsighted, wasn't wearing his glasses, yet his gaze was unusually sharp, and the sadness in his eyes. It was as if he knew that Leo would die right after this wedding. Thinking back, his father had agreed to the wedding so quickly that afternoon, without asking a single question. It was completely out of character. Could it be? Could it be? Leo's heart trembled. He started to panic. Charles paused for a few seconds, then faced the audience and began to speak. I've had many identities in my life. I was a good son to my father. I was a rich kid born with a silver spoon. And I was the founder who built the Miller family into what it is today. But setting all those labels aside, at this moment, I am just a father. An inadequate father. Because of my work, my wife and I were often apart from our son. I failed to fulfill my duties as a father. I'm not a man who is good with words, because my own father was the same way. As a result, Leo and I rarely communicate. So here, I want to first apologize to my son, Leo Miller. I'm sorry, son. As Charles Miller finished speaking, he turned to look at Leo beside him. By now, Leo couldn't control his emotions or his tears. When Charles said, I'm sorry, Leo felt as if he were seeing the face of his real father. The penniless man who had failed his fatherly duties, the man he had hated for so long, the man who was a thorough villain even in his own book. The boy who had never known a father's love finally felt it from this rich dad. In that moment, it was as if he had found closure. Yes, if his own poor dad hadn't loved him, how could he have raised him alone under so much pressure? His mother's death had been a huge blow to him, but wasn't it just as devastating for his father? His father's decline was because he was trapped in the pain of losing his wife, unable to escape, unable to let go. He was blaming himself, too. Blaming himself for being so poor, for being unable to save his wife, for being forced to watch her die, powerless to do anything. But because he was a man, he didn't express his emotions. He wouldn't show his weakness to his child or awkwardly profess his love. And so, Leo had misunderstood him, and the rift between them had grown deeper and deeper. Extreme poverty was like a thorny vine, relentlessly piercing their lives and sparking countless arguments. But the young Leo had only seen the fights, not the deep, unwavering love between his parents. That love was like a lamp in the darkness, its tenacious light keeping their family from collapsing, preserving the warmth of home. Leo opened his arms and hugged his father tightly. Michelle took the microphone, patting Leo's shoulder and smiling happily. This silly boy is mine. Michelle's speech was long. Leo was so emotional that he couldn't remember all of it. He only remembered her last words. He is my pride, my lifelong pride. Leo thought of the lyrics from that old song. Father, am I your pride? Are you still worried about me? It was a song written for a deceased father, and he had once wanted to ask his own mother in heaven the same question. Now, in Michelle's words, he felt he had received the answer he had always longed for. Leo felt another wave of release. In that moment, he could no longer feel the pain in his body. The punishments of the world's rules seemed to vanish. With tears in his eyes, he hugged his mother. Finally, it was Clara's turn. She didn't say much, and her words were remarkably simple. Compared to the elegant, well-read Michelle, this woman was actually more like Leo's own mother. My whole life has felt like I've been on the wrong path, and I've been filled with regret time and time again. The other day, as I was thinking about my life, I realized the one thing I don't regret is giving birth to my daughter. I love my daughter. She is the only reason I'm still alive in this world. I've failed her. Because of me, she suffered so much in the first half of her life. I'm so glad she met Leo, and I thank him, my son-in-law, for paying for my treatment. The first time I met him, I felt a sense of familiarity, as if I were meeting my own child, so kind. Though he's a boy, he has the emotional sensitivity of a girl. I often wondered what kind of family could raise such an outstanding young man. I truly admire his parents, and that contrast made me feel even more guilty. I was an inadequate mother. I'm sorry, Jules. Before Clara could finish, Julianne hugged her tightly. Crying, Julianne shook her head and said loudly, "Don't say that, Mom. It's me who should be sorry. From now on, Leo will take good care of you. Your daughter has been unfilial." In her sentence, the words "I" and were spoken softly, while she emphasized Leo's name. So it sounded like, "Leo will take good care of you. Your daughter has been unfilial." Leo heard the strangeness in her tone, but with emotions running so high, his mind was a mess. He didn't have the clarity to analyze what was wrong with her words. He stepped forward, embracing both Julianne and Clara, and said loudly, "Mom, Jules and I will take good care of you." The guests in the audience were moved to tears again and again by the parents' speeches. After the parents left the stage, the host asked, when they exchanged rings, "It seems the bride and groom didn't kiss. Does everyone want to see them kiss? If you do, clap, 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 clap." The applause this time was the most unified of the night. Amid the cheers, Leo and Julianne embraced and kissed passionately. The host began a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 9, 2, 8, 2, 7. He deliberately started counting decimals, and the two continued to kiss. "If there's a next life, I'll find you sooner. Let's get married. You've always been a great writer in my heart. Let's go on a trip. Leo, we have a house now. From now on, we can watch lots of movies together. I'll always be with you. It's okay. I'll lend you my luck. Here's to our Jules becoming a great writer. I'll support you. We're going to make it." Julianne, do you believe in fate? I don't. A montage of memories with Julianne flashed through Leo's mind like a film in reverse. Even the deepest, almost forgotten memories resurfaced with incredible clarity. Boom, boom. Just as Leo felt his soul about to leave his body, two claps of thunder cracked in the sky, jolting him back to reality. A group of uninvited guests had arrived at the outdoor venue. Leading them were none other than Victor and Jason Jiang. Behind them was a group of thugs, and held captive by them were the elders of the four families who had been missing all night. The scene terrified the guests. Leo's mind went blank. After a 2-second pause, just as he was about to yell at the Jiangs, the other side spoke first. Victor Jiang wore a fawning expression as he addressed Julianne on stage. "Miss Hale, our transaction is complete. Shouldn't you be holding up your end of the bargain?" Donovan Sterling's eyes were bloodshot. He glared at Julianne, his voice a low, furious roar. "You venomous woman in sheep's clothing. I've been a shrewd man my entire life, and I never thought I'd be brought down by someone like you. You despicable beast, release my son." Mr. Rose, his eyes wide with panic, shouted, "Where's my daughter? What have you done with Serafina? Let her go. If you dare to harm her, I'll kill you with my own 2 hands." Watching their reactions, Leo's pupils contracted violently. His whole body trembled as he turned to look at the woman standing beside him. Julianne's eyes were empty as she looked at Leo. They stared at each other for a few seconds before a cold, emotionless smile curved her lips. "I'm sorry, Lily. I won't let you die. I absolutely refuse." "No, no, no." Leo shook his head frantically. In that instant, Julianne had become a stranger once again. Leo stumbled down the stage. His body was already on the verge of collapse. Just those few steps took half his life. He wanted to rush over and save Donovan Sterling, but he'd only taken 2 steps before Jason Jiang blocked his path. Leo glared at Jason and roared, "Get out of my way!" Jason shrugged, his face a mask of innocence. "Yelling at me won't do you any good. Your wife told us to do all of this." "I said, get out of my way." Leo shoved Jason hard and ran toward Donovan Sterling and Mr. Rose. The 2 thugs holding Donovan didn't dare to provoke Leo and looked to Victor Jiang for direction. Victor gave a slight nod, tacitly allowing Leo's approach, and the thugs released their grip. Donovan's hands were bound so tightly that Leo couldn't possibly untie them with his bare hands. "Forget it, Leo. Don't waste your energy," Donovan said, his tone filled with resignation. He had given up trying to save himself. It was true. This was an isolated island. Even if he wanted to escape, he couldn't. "It's okay, Mr. Sterling. As long as I'm here, you'll all be safe," Leo said, looking for a way to undo the ropes while asking, "What's going on? How'd you get kidnapped by the Jiangs?" Donovan snorted, his gaze falling on the space behind Leo. "You should ask your new wife about that. And your father." Leo turned. Julianne had also come down from the stage. Charles Miller, who had been sitting in the audience, stood up and walked to Julianne's side. "Dad, you. Seeing his father standing with Julianne, Leo was so shocked he was momentarily speechless. He had thought Julianne was the only one who knew his secret, but now it seemed that his unreliable father had also guessed something was wrong. So, he was one of the masterminds tonight, too. Charles looked at Leo with a pained and helpless expression. "Son, I'm sorry. I'm your father. How could I just stand by and watch my son die?" Leo frowned, pointed at Julianne, and demanded angrily, "Julianne, what did you tell my dad?" "I just asked our dad for a little help," Julianne said, her arms crossed, her eyes cold as she looked at Leo. "You want to know how all this happened, right? Fine. I'll tell you." From the moment they first met, Julianne had been curious about this strange man. She had always wanted to uncover Leo's secrets. But no matter how meticulous she was, she could never figure out what this man who had deliberately approached her was hiding. Every time he was about to slip up, he would conceal all the clues again. Later, Julianne found herself falling in love with him. Blinded by love, she nearly forgot her initial mission to uncover his secrets. That was until Leo's health began to show abnormal signs, one after another. From the initial chest pains to the uncontrollable nosebleeds, the memory loss, the constant drowsiness, and his body's diminished ability to heal. This series of problems forced the suspicious Julianne to regain her senses. She began to investigate Leo in secret, slowly uncovering his secrets, bit by bit, until she knew the truth. One quiet night, after secretly going through Leo's phone, Julianne stared blankly at the moonlight outside her window. She remembered what Leo had told her on the beach. "I was sent from heaven to help you." Looking at the sleeping Leo in her arms, Julianne whispered, "So, if you save me, you'll die, right?" Her words were a response, spanning across time, to what he had told her on the beach that night. Julianne had finally found the secret she was looking for, but she felt no joy or excitement in solving the mystery. She just wanted to pretend she knew nothing and continue living their beautiful, dreamlike life. But watching Leo's condition worsen, Julianne decided she could no longer sit back and do nothing. She had to save Leo, even if it meant sacrificing her own life. The internal conflict within the Sterling family gave Julianne a glimmer of hope. After causing a scene at Jeremy Rose's house, she found something: Jeremy's family stock certificates. At first, she didn't think much of it. Later, after figuring out Susie Stone's true identity and rescuing her at the Seventh Heaven Lounge, Julianne found evidence in Jason Jiang's office of his organ trafficking ring. At that moment, Julianne felt as if fate had aligned perfectly for her. An audacious plan began to form in her mind. Under duress, Jeremy Rose was forced to sign a stock transfer agreement without knowing its contents. Then, with little effort, Julianne borrowed the 10% of the Sterling family stock from Susie Stone, the very shares Alastair Sterling had given his daughter as compensation. With Marcus Sterling out of the picture, Donovan no longer cared about that 10%. It couldn't threaten his position. In fact, he had given his third brother, Alastair, another 5% as a thank you for his support. It may have only been 5%, but it was family stock, not company stock. Donovan hadn't miscalculated. That 10% of shares couldn't threaten his position in the Sterling family. But Julianne's ambition was never just about a single family. She had never seen herself as a pawn on the chessboard, nor did she intend to be a player. Her goal was to flip the entire board. After acquiring the Rose and Sterling family shares, Julianne used a simple trick to seize the Jiang family's illicit funds hidden overseas. Then, armed with evidence of their criminal enterprise, she approached the nearly finished Jiang family. She threatened to hand them over to the police if it didn't work for her, but she didn't stop there. Julianne understood human nature. She didn't just threaten them. She also promised them benefits. Waiving the legally binding stock certificates and leveraging her status as the Miller family's future daughter-in-law, she promised to help the Jiangs rise again with the combined power of the three families. If they didn't want to stay in Ethelberg, she would use their overseas connections to help them establish themselves abroad. What was the Jiang family situation at the time? Their assets were frozen by the government, and Donovan Sterling was relentlessly pursuing them. Under this double pressure, if someone with incredible power appeared and told you, "Be my dog, and I'll help you rise again," or "I'll destroy you right now," what would you do? After hearing Julianne's offer, Victor and Jason Jiang didn't hesitate. They knelt on the spot and pledged their allegiance. With the Jiangs as her loyal dogs, Julianne then approached Charles Miller, hoping he would persuade the Song and Cole families to support her. Charles was a man who had refused to join the four great families, which showed his conservative nature. A cautious and shrewd man like him wouldn't normally align with a radical like Julianne. But he was a father. Like Julianne, he had long noticed something was wrong with Leo. With just a little push from Julianne, he quickly understood everything. Compared to his son's life, nothing else mattered. Charles decided to take the risk with Julianne. That's right. Julianne had bet on human nature again, and she had won. At the same time, she was walking further and further down a path of no return. With Charles Miller's help, getting the Song and Cole families on board was just a matter of time. But Julianne hadn't expected Leo's health to deteriorate so quickly. She could feel his life slipping away. She was terrified that she would wake up one morning and Leo would be gone. So every night, she held him as tightly as she could. She read and reread Leo's novel, and her plan became more and more urgent. But strangely, no matter how fast she moved, she couldn't outpace the speed at which Leo's life was fading. Julianne couldn't wait any longer. She would not let Leo die. So, on that beach, Julianne brought everything into the open, and her final plan officially began the moment Leo called Charles Miller and announced they were getting married. After hearing Julianne's story, Leo fell silent. "I'm so stupid," he thought. "Why am I only understanding this now? I should have known. If her world was just a romance novel, then, after her awakening, the first thing she would do wouldn't be to slap the protagonist and become some powerful heroine. It would be to break through the screen, snatch the author's keyboard, and delete the whole damn book." Leo should have known. That was Julianne. Only Julianne would think like that. She was too smart to solve problems a normal way. Why? Why did he only understand now? It was too late. "Miss Hale, you're the most intelligent woman I've ever met. If my stupid son were half as smart as you, perhaps my Jiang family wouldn't have fallen so far." Victor Jiang's fawning words broke Leo's train of thought. Leo looked up, his expression dazed. The world around him spun. He pressed his fingers to his temples and shook his head, tried to clear it. Seeing his discomfort, Julianne rushed over in her high heels and steadied him. Leo looked at her, his eyes red. Seeing the concern in her gaze, he couldn't muster an ounce of hatred, only regret, frustration, and a deep sense of powerlessness. The same feeling he'd had as a child, watching his mother die, unable to do anything. He never thought he'd feel that kind of despair and helplessness again in this lifetime. Leo's throat tightened. A single tear rolled down his cheek. He struggled to speak. "So, what was your final plan?" Julianne didn't shy away. She laid it all out. To use any means necessary to destroy the Sterling and Rose families. As long as the main characters don't have a perfect ending, this story will never conclude, the villainous role won't collapse, and you won't leave me. And Damien and Serafina, they're alive. I just have them locked up. After tonight, I'll arrange for Damien to leave Ethelberg. He and Serafina will never see each other again. If they still dare to love each other, I'll kill one of them. Her words were so cold, so devoid of emotion. In her mouth, killing friends she had spent so much time with sounded as simple as killing an ant. It was insane beyond reason. "Jewel, stop. Stop this foolishness. It won't work." Leo was still trying to reason with her. "No, I've already done it." Julianne's lips curled into that cold smile, her eyes wild. "Why do you think those four are here?" "Because they've all handed over their shares. As of now in Ethelberg, what Julianne Hale says goes. You've changed." Leo shook his head, his hope completely gone. "I haven't changed. I've always been this way." Julianne grabbed the lapels of his suit, her eyes red as she shouted, "You created me! Don't you know me? The villainess. This is me. This is who I am. This is how I'm supposed to be. Isn't that right?" She gestured wildly, her expression twisting with her rising emotions. She turned to Victor Jiang. "Am I wrong?" "Absolutely right. Miss Hale, you're not wrong at all. It's Leo Miller who doesn't appreciate you, who doesn't understand all you've done for him." Slap. "Shut up." Julian slapped Victor so hard he fell to the ground. "Is my man someone you have a right to comment on?" she asked, her voice like ice. I'm sorry. Victor, now on the ground, immediately knelt, slapping his own face and bowing his head. I deserve to die. Julianne ignored him. She grabbed Leo's face, her fingers digging in as she demanded, "Leo Miller, I've done so much for you. Why aren't you moved? Why aren't you happy? You're not going to die. Aren't you happy about that? Smile for me. Smile. Don't you dare give me that dead man's face. Smile. It's no use, Jules. You already saved me," Leo said, letting her manhandle him. His eyes were lifeless, filled with despair. "My mission was already complete the moment you lowered the knife and didn't kill Trevor Hale." "Impossible. You're lying to me. You have to be lying." "I'm not lying." Leo shook his head, his gaze firm. "Haven't you noticed? After everything you've done for me, my life force is still fading faster and faster." Leo was certain his mission was long over. In his book, the blizzard was the turning point that sent Julianne into a full-blown villainous spiral. Because it was such a key moment, he couldn't remember it directly before. But Trevor Hale didn't die by her hand, and Clara Hale's cancer was removed. Julianne was already saved. From that moment, she could never truly become the villainess. So, when Leo fainted that night, he should have died right then and left this world. But he didn't, and he couldn't understand why. It wasn't until tonight, at his wedding, that he finally understood why he had lived for so long. It was because of his own lingering attachments, his own unfinished business. Just like Mrs. Gable's determination to live long enough to give Julianne her house deed as a wedding gift. Leo also had attachments he couldn't leave behind, a childhood full of regrets. Fueled by that, he had woken up again. What was he looking for? To see the mother figure with cancer get better after surgery? To reconcile with his father? To hear his mother's words, "I'm proud of you"? To see his friends' bonds last? So, was he free of regrets now? No. He still wanted to see his alternate self, in another time, achieve success and happiness. He had done everything he wanted to do. All his wishes had been fulfilled. And now, he could finally be at peace. This was the life he wanted. This was the answer he had for Logan. That's why, when he hugged his parents on stage, he had felt an unprecedented sense of peace and release. Julianne stared at Leo, watching the exhaustion in his eyes, watching the light in them fade until they were as murky as an old man's. She finally believed him. Why? Why is it like this? "Leo, you can't die." Julianne trembled, shaking her head frantically as she threw her arms around him, holding him with all her strength. Kneeling on the ground, Victor Jiang saw them locked in a desperate embrace. A sinister smile touched his lips as he quietly pulled a dagger from his coat. Standing in the back, Tyler Yu was the first to see it. Seeing the cold glint of the blade, he roared, "Leo, look out." Tyler Yu shouted and rushed forward without a second thought. But he was too far away. He could never be faster than Victor Jiang's lunge. Leo's body was in such a state of decay that by the time he heard Tyler's warning, his mind hadn't even processed it. Julianne didn't know Victor would betray her, but hearing the shout, she instinctively hugged Leo even tighter. Just as Leo thought Julianne was about to take the knife for him, Donovan Sterling, his hand still bound, lunged forward and slammed his body into Victor, knocking him to the ground. The dagger flew from his hand and clattered on the grass. "Son of a bitch, Donovan Sterling, you ruined everything." Victor screamed, kicking Donovan in the stomach. He scrambled to get the knife, but just as his fingers brushed the hilt, a recovered Julianne stomped her high heel onto his hand. Ah! The sharp heel pierced the back of his hand, drawing a bloody gash. Victor screamed in agony. Slap! As Victor opened his mouth to scream, Julianne mercilessly slapped him across the face, then kicked him in the chest, sending him rolling to the side. The whole thing happened so fast that the thugs Victor had brought were still dazed. They had been hired by Julianne, but were taking orders from Victor. Now that Victor had turned, they didn't know whose side to take. Julianne bunched up the cumbersome skirt of her wedding dress, picked up the dagger, and walked over to Victor, who was still trying to recover from her kick. "Your Jiang family owes its life to me. How dare you cross me?" Julianne gritted her teeth, her voice seething with fury. If you had been good dogs, I would have let you live. But you dared to betray me. Ha! Ha! Victor laughed coldly, showing no fear. You crazy bitch. You betrayed your best friends and the man you love. I never believed you'd let us walk away alive. Julianne held all the evidence of the Jiang family's crimes. From the beginning, their cooperation had been coerced. After witnessing Julianne's methods firsthand, they knew they could never outplay someone so ruthless. If they didn't kill her, the dirt she had on them would keep them as her dog for the rest of their lives. And Victor Jiang was not a man who would willingly live as someone else's dog. So, he had been planning to kill her all along. The plan was finalized tonight, after Julianne had successfully brought down the other 4 families of Ethelbert. He and Jason had conspired. Tonight, if they slaughtered everyone on this island, the Jiang family would rise again, more glorious than ever. And this time, there would be no obstacles. They would become the most powerful family in the city. You guessed right. I was planning to squeeze every last drop of value out of you, then send you to the police to face the firing squad, Julianne said, grabbing Victor's ear with a smile. But now I've changed my mind. I'm going to kill you myself. Slash. Without another word, Julianne sliced off Victor's ear with a dagger. Ahak! Ahak! Victor clutched the side of his head, screaming like a pig being slaughtered as he thrashed on the ground. Julian tossed the ear onto his chest, raised the blood-soaked dagger, and spat. Anyone who betrays me will not die an easy death. After tonight, I will torture. She was cut off as a drop of blood splattered on her cheek. She turned in horror. Jason Zhang's knife was less than a foot from her temple, held back only by a pale hand that had gripped the blade. The hand was Leo's. The blood on her face was his. A moment earlier, as Julianne turned to stomp on Victor's hand, Leo had staggered over to help Donovan to his feet. As they steadied themselves, he saw Julianne raise the dagger and confront Victor. At the same time, Jason, standing to her right, pulled out his own knife. Seeing the danger, Leo stumbled forward, his steps unsteady. He wouldn't have been fast enough, but the sight of Julianne so cleanly slicing off Victor's ear had stunned Jason for a crucial few seconds. They say villains die because they talk too much, but Julianne was terrifying. All action, no talk. The brutal efficiency of it had frozen Jason. That brief pause gave Leo the opening he needed. He caught the blade meant for Julianne's temple with his bare hand. Jason panicked. In his confusion, he let go of the handle, but the blade remained firmly in Leo's grip. Seeing Jason release it, Leo grabbed the hilt with his other hand, let go of the blade, and lunged at Jason. But Leo's movements were slow, like an old man on the brink of death. Jason easily dodged the attack, grabbed Leo's wrist, and wrenched the dagger back. Julian tried to rush to his aid, but Victor, on the verge of passing out from pain, threw himself in her path, blocking her. Get out of my way! Julianne kicked him, but her long dress tangled around her legs, and she tripped and fell. Die, Leo Miller! Jason roared, raising the dagger and plunging it toward Leo's neck. Leo couldn't move. He had no strength left. He closed his eyes, calmly waiting for death. As he faded, he heard Julianne and his parents scream, "No, don't." "I'm sorry," he thought to them all. But seconds passed, and he felt no pain. When he opened his eyes again, Tyler was standing in front of him. Tyler had Jason in a chokehold, his other hand gripping Jason's wrist so tightly that the dagger fell from his limp fingers. Tyler grabbed Jason's head and slammed a punch into his face, shattering his nose. "We're even now, Miller," Tyler shouted. "From now on, we're brothers." "Okay," Leo croaked, his voice hoarse. "If there's a next life, we'll be brothers." Charles and Michelle rushed over and hugged Leo, frantically asking if he was okay. Clara ran toward her daughter, but was stopped by Julianne's shout. "Mom, don't come over here." Seeing Leo was safe for the moment, Julianne scrambled to her feet, grabbed Victor's collar, raised the dagger she still held, and plunged it into his side again and again. At that moment, the stench of death washed over him, numbing the pain. Victor's blood-soaked face twisted into a ghastly, emotionless smile. "If I die, you're not living either. We'll all die together, ha ha." With his last ounce of strength, Victor's trembling hand pulled a small black box, like a remote control, from his pocket. His thumb was pressed firmly on a red button. Victor Zhang's eyes were wild. "You didn't think my son and I would dare to storm this island alone, did you? Let me tell you, when we arrived, I had my men plant timed explosives in all the buildings behind you. The moment I press this button, you'll have exactly 1 minute to evacuate." Ha ha ha. His words threw the scene into chaos. Just then, a voice called out from a distance. "The bombs you're talking about. You don't mean these, do you?" It was Damian Sterling's voice. Everyone's head snapped in the direction of the sound. Damien and Serafina were walking calmly toward them, followed by a dozen bodyguards. Each guard was carrying bags. The bags were filled with the very explosives Victor had prepared. A sly smile, identical to Julianne's, played on Serafina's lips. Your men weren't very tough. And these bombs are junk. Once you disable the remote detonator, they're useless. Julianne frowned. How did you two get out of the basement? We have Victor Zhang's men to thank for that, Serafina said, pointing at him. The guys planting the bombs were spotted by security and hid in the basement. That's when security found us tied up on the bed. They had no idea it was you and Mr. Miller who locked us up. They assumed the intruders had taken us hostage. So, they rescued us, and we confiscated all the bombs. The protagonist's plot armor was truly something else. Damien and Serafina could be rescued without lifting a finger. Victor, who had been ready to take everyone down with him, stared in disbelief, his jaw nearly hitting the floor. Impossible! Impossible! That's absolutely impossible, he shrieked, mashing the button on the remote again and again. Nothing happened. Since everyone else was fine, that meant Victor and Jason Jiang were in for a very bad time. The scene that followed was too gruesome to describe in detail. Damien and Serafina's men untied the captive family elders and swiftly dealt with the Jiang's thugs. Those thugs had actually been hired by Julianne, but she no longer cared. From a moment, she realized that becoming the villainous and destroying the protagonist's happy ending couldn't stop Leo from leaving this world. She had given up the fight. Everything she did was for Leo. If he couldn't live, she had no reason to live either. Besides, she had calculated that she might fail tonight. But she wasn't afraid. In fact, she was willing to die. The villainess, after becoming evil, is defeated by the protagonist and dies in her lover's arms. Wasn't that a kind of failed ending in itself? And if she failed, if she died just like in the book, then Leo's rescue mission would also be a failure, wouldn't it? So, she wasn't afraid of death, because it meant Leo could keep living. As long as Leo lived, her plan was still a success. Yes, death had been part of Julianne's original, near-perfect plan. To make Leo live, she had crafted this intricate scheme. She had exploited every system loophole she could find, but she had never calculated that Leo's mission had already ended during that blizzard last year. Wasn't it ironic? So incredibly ironic. In the end, she had failed, just as her character was designed to. No matter how smart, she was destined to be the loser. Julianne dropped the dagger. She gathered the stained fabric of her dress and walked toward Leo, who was lying on the ground, held tightly by Charles and Michelle, barely breathing. The deep gash on his right hand gushed dark red blood, pooling on the ground. Leo, Julianne cried out, her voice breaking. I won't let you die. Do you hear me? She knelt on the grass, gently taking Leo from his parents' arms and pulling him into her own embrace. Jules, I'm so sorry. Leo slowly looked up, his gaze finding Damien and Serafina as they walked over, followed by Ethan, Jessica, Chloe, Susie, Audrey. His voice was a pleading whisper. Damien, Serafina, everyone, I'm sorry. Don't blame Jules, and don't blame my parents. They just love me too much. All of this started because of me. If you're gonna hate someone, hate me. After I'm gone. If you still care about our friendship, please, let them go. After everything Julianne had done, Leo was terrified that the other families would unite against the Millers and her after his death. Before being pulled into this world, Leo had died with no one to worry about. But now, even in his final moments, he was consumed with concern for his family and the woman he loved. Perhaps, in his heart, which world was real no longer mattered at all. Leo used his uninjured left hand to gently push at Julianne's shoulder. Dummy, pull me a little looser. I can't breathe. Hearing him, Julianne immediately loosened her grip. She looked at his dull, lifeless eyes, her heart aching. She reached up to wipe the dirt from his cheek, forgetting her own hands were covered in blood. She smeared his face. Panicked, she grabbed a clean part of her wedding dress to wipe it again, but Leo stopped her hand. He gently used his left hand to stroke her face. The blood smeared on her cheek was from his own hand. He carefully wiped it away, his palm cupping her soft cheek and chin. His voice was incredibly hoarse. You've gotten a little chubbier since we first met. The meaning was clear. My love, I took good care of you. After I'm gone, you have to take care of yourself. His voice was so faint, each word requiring all his remaining strength. My love, don't cry. Please, I want to see you smile when I fall asleep. Hearing his words, Julianne forced her lips into a heartbreaking smile, a sound that was half laugh, half sob escaping her throat. Ha, ha, oh, ha. That night in the projects, the The moment Leo had caught that windswept manuscript page, Julianne had looked into his eyes and known she had finally found her white knight. She had guessed the fairy tale beginning of their story, but she had never, ever guessed this ending. Good night, Jules. See you tomorrow. With the last of his strength, Leo bid her farewell, then closed his eyes. The hand on her cheek went limp and fell to the ground. Leo was really gone, but he died with a smile on his face, because he died in the arms of the person he loved most. Julianne held him and wailed, crying till her throat was raw, crying until no more sounds would come. She gently laid him down, her heart whispering, wait for me, and slowly got to her feet. Serafina approached her. Jules, I understand how you feel, but you can't bring him back. Even after being betrayed, Serafina chose to forgive and comfort her. Sarah, I'm sorry. I owe you. I'll pay you back in the next life, Julianne said. Then she kicked off her high heels, gathered her dress, and ran toward the winery, sprinting for the elevator. The building had 18 floors. A jump from the roof would be certain death. Jules, what are you doing? Don't be impulsive. Serafina screamed. Damien swore. Damn it, stop her. Someone stop her. Security. Security. Stop that woman in the wedding dress. Charles yelled. The scene descended into chaos again as everyone crowded together, trying to chase after Julianne, their panic only slowing them down. Julianne Hale stood on the roof of the 18-story building. The autumn wind whipped through her hair, and tears welled in her long, deep-set foxy eyes, tracing a path over the heart-shaped mole beneath her left eye. Her gaze was filled with exhaustion, as if she had lost all hope in the world. And mixed with the exhaustion was a profound sense of disgust and hatred. She hated this world. She hated her tragic fate. Why was she always the one who lost? Julianne bit her crimson lip, her elegant nose twitching slightly. Looking down at her once white, now stained wedding dress, she couldn't stop the tears from flowing again. She looked down at the lawn, where Leo's body lay still. She closed her eyes, ready to jump. Jules, don't, her mother's voice cried out. Julianne opened her eyes and turned to see her mother and all her old friends standing behind the safety railing. She shook her head. I'm sorry, Mom. Your daughter has been unfilial. I'll repay you in the next life. Julianne, don't do this. Damien shouted. This isn't what Leo would have wanted. Have you forgotten his last words to you? He's right, Jules, Serafina said, her voice trembling. Please calm down. For Leo's sake, you have to love yourself. Charles and Michelle spoke in unison. We've already lost a son. We don't want to lose a daughter-in-law, too. Please come down. The Miller family will treat you like our own daughter. Susie Stone sobbed. Jules, please don't. I beg you, please live. I already think of you as my real sister. Julianne closed her eyes. A montage of beautiful memories flashed before her. She was surprised to find that there were so many people and things in this world that she cared about. In the end, she stepped back from the edge. This time, Leo Miller had finally won. Julianne Hale had willingly lost to him. 1 year later, after reconciling with the other families, Julianne, with her sharp mind and the full support of Charles Miller, Susie Stone, and others, completed her capital accumulation in just 1 year. She leaped across 3 social classes to establish a new power in Ethelberg, the Hale family. The new 4 great families of Ethelberg, the Songs, the Coles, the Roses, and the Sterlings, led by the Millers and Hales, formed a new urban development group. They redeveloped the city's new district, and the once dilapidated projects became the core commercial area, its land value skyrocketing overnight, creating a new wave of wealthy landowners. With the money from the buyout of the house Mrs. Gable had given her, Julianne held a grand funeral for the old woman. She used the rest of the money to open an orphanage called the Gable House of Love. Besides working and going home, Julianne spent all her free time writing novels. She didn't dare to let herself rest, because an idle mind would wander. If she was exhausted, she couldn't think about anything else and could sleep peacefully at night. Mandy, editor Juniper, your book signing for Miller and Hale is tomorrow. Do you need us to prepare anything? Julianne Hale, nothing special. Julianne looked at the crimson fountain pen on her desk and messaged her editor. Just the signing ink like always. I'll bring my own pen. Mandy, got it. At the book signing. Fan A. Everyone says your new book is an autobiography. Is that true? Julianne Hale. No, it's not. Fan B. Then, have you ever been in love, Juniper? Julianne Hale. No. Fan C. If a guy just like the one in your book pursued you, would you say yes? Julianne paused for a second, then smiled and shook her head. Our fates were too shallow, but our love was too deep. End of novel. Leo Miller slammed his laptop shut and tossed it to the young woman with glasses standing behind him. She was his dedicated editor and also something of a personal assistant. Her older brother, Tyler Yu, was Leo's college roommate and best friend, the kind of friend you take a bullet for. Back when Leo was too broke to eat, it was Tyler who had helped him out. Of course, Tyler himself was a huge simp, surviving on free cafeteria rice and soup just to save enough money to buy his goddess the latest phone, only to get dumped in the end. But Tyler was doing well now. He'd landed a rich girl named Chloe who drove a Maserati. She was an intern host at a radio station in the city, and Tyler had followed her there, getting a job as a cameraman, which really just meant he was her glorified gopher. Leo often teased him about it, saying he was a simp who'd successfully leveled up and was now living the soft life, which always earned him a playful punch from Tyler. The young woman's name was Talia Yu. She hadn't graduated from college yet and was looking for an internship. Tyler had sent her to Leo, who got her a spot at his publishing platform as a junior editor. It was really just to get her an internship credit. She didn't even have to go to the office, just follow Leo around and help out. Talia carefully read the last chapter Leo had written. Leo, are you sure about this? No changes. Leo nodded. Not a single word. But this ending is so abrupt. How is it abrupt? Well, it seems like a happy ending, but you never explained what happened to the male protagonist. Leo shrugged, replying casually, he went back to the real world. Then, by some stroke of luck, he wrote a best-selling novel and became a famous author named Leo Miller. Ugh. Talia pushed up her glasses, looking at Leo as if he were an idiot. It was one thing to use your real name for the sterling heirs, Shelter Heart too, Miller and Hale, but now that the book's done, don't tell me you've actually started to believe you're the character. Leo shook his head. Of course not. It's called virtual reality, a crossover between fiction and reality. Don't you know? These autobiographical novels are really popular right now. I'm just hopping on the trend. That's just a bunch of nonsense. Talia muttered under her breath. What did you say? Leo glared at her. You want me to report you to the company and get your pay docked? No, I'm sorry. Talia quickly waved her hands in apology. Leo, I was just kidding. You'd better be. Leo, I have one more question. What is it? Your first Sterling Heir book, which you wrote a year ago, had a tragic ending for the villainess. Why did she become the protagonist in the second one? These days, female readers love strong female leads. It's called adapting to the market. What do you think my millions in royalties come from each year? Oh, okay. Then why did you write the ending to be so sad? Talia's question made Leo pause. He thought for a long time before finally saying, well, when you gain some things in life, you lose others. There's no such thing as a perfect world. But readers these days love happy ever after endings. Aren't you afraid your fans will send you death threats for this kind of bittersweet, tragic ending? Nah, Leo shook his head. These days, you have to write tragic stories to be remembered. The cheesy, happily ever after stuff has been done to death. Everyone's tired of it. Fine. Ring. Talia's phone rang. She went outside to answer it. When she came back in, she said to Leo, the book signing for Miller and Hale is this Saturday and Sunday in Ethelberg. The company's sending a car. Forget the car. I'll take you. We'll fly business class. The company won't reimburse for business class. It's fine, I'll pay for it. After we're done, we can hang out in Ethelberg for a couple of days. Yay. Thanks, Leo. You're the best brother ever. If your actual brother heard that, he'd accuse me of brainwashing you again. Haha. Just as they finished talking, Talia's phone rang again. Oh, it's my brother. Go ahead and take it, Leo said with a wave, walking out onto the balcony alone. Seeing Leo go outside, Talia decided to take the call in the living room. Talia, hey bro, what's up? Tyler. Nothing, just missed you. Calling to see how work is going. Is it tiring? Talia, not at all. Working with Leo isn't tiring at all. And he's so good to me. He's even taken me to Ethelberg this weekend. Tyler. T.S. Tyler clicked his tongue. You haven't developed a crush on that brat, have you? Talia retorted. Get lost. I only see Leo as a brother. Tyler, haha. Just checking, her brother laughed. But what if he doesn't see you as a sister? My little sister is so cute. I'm worried that jerk will try something. Talia, no way. Leo just sees me as a little sister. Talia looked at Leo on the balcony, who was silently smoking and staring into the distance. After a moment, she asked, Bro, was Leo ever hurt in a relationship? Tyler, huh? Why do you ask? Tyler sounded surprised. Talia, when I'm with him, Talia said, I always feel like there's this faint sadness about him. On the other end of the line, Tyler paused. When he was in college, that kid was pretty lively, kind of a goofy idiot, always doing dumb stuff. A year ago, his house caught fire because of a short circuit. He almost died. Luckily, a neighbor found him in time. It was after that fire, when he did an interview with the radio station, that his crappy book blew up out of nowhere. Then he became the platform's new star author. Maybe, after becoming a writer, he's experienced different things, grown up, so he's become more quiet. That's a sign of maturity. Tyler sounded quite passionate about his own theory. Talia? Oh, Talia replied softly, her gaze once again on Leo on the balcony. Her brother had said a lot, but she felt it wasn't quite right. A woman's intuition told her that the indelible sadness in Leo's eyes had nothing to do with a fire or becoming a famous author. After joining the company, she had looked into Leo's work. Before he became famous, he had indeed had a tough time. But after he made it, he hadn't experienced any major online hate campaigns. So why would he be so melancholic all the time? Every time Leo finished writing, he liked to be alone for a while, staring into space, smoking, his eyes vacant and full of sorrow. Although the version of himself in his book was full of life, he himself was nothing like the vibrant Leo from the first half of the story. Talia felt that beneath Leo's youthful exterior, there was an old soul. Talia, are you still there? Why aren't you talking? Talia, oh hey, I gotta go. Talk to you later, bye. Talia hung up without giving Tyler a chance to reply. Leo finished his cigarette and came back inside. He took a sip of tea to clear his throat. He glanced at Talia, who had just finished her call. You still here? Although Leo's multi-million-dollar apartment in the city center had plenty of rooms and he didn't mind her staying, Talia chose to rent a place in the suburbs. She had just started her career and wanted to live independently, without relying on family or friends. Talia, I'm about to head back to my place, Talia said, then remembered something. Oh, by the way, Leo, you're almost out of laundry detergent. Should I get the white camellia scent again? Leo, yeah, that's the one, Leo nodded faintly. Leo, can I ask you a question? If it's about my love life, no, he said reflexively. No, it's not about that. Talia shook her head. I was just wondering why you like the white camellia scent so much. Your air fresheners, laundry detergent, body wash, it's all the same scent. I'm getting sick of smelling it. Leo smiled faintly. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of it either. My mom liked to buy things with that scent. I just got used to it growing up. Then why the white camellia scent? Because... Leo paused, a bitter smile on his face. Because the white camellia fragrance was cheap, for the same brand of body wash or detergent. The camellia-scented one was always cheaper. Sometimes it was even on clearance. My mom would always stock up, so my childhood was filled with that smell. Oh, so that's why. No wonder in your book. What? No, nothing. Leo, I'm heading out. Talia waved, grabbed her bag, and walked out the door. That girl is still so impulsive, Leo said with a smile, watching her leave. His gaze returned to his computer. Looking at the words, end of novel. At the end of the chapter, Leo's mind drifted again. Click. A lighter sparked, igniting another cigarette. Leo took one drag after another. Click. The door suddenly opened. I told you to smoke less. It's bad for you. His father, Charles Miller, walked in, carrying several large bags. This was Leo's real father. And while he shared the same name as the rich dad from his book, he was not a wealthy man. He had come to the city today to bring his son vegetables from their home garden. Dad, what are you doing here? Leo quickly stood up. Why didn't you call me? I would have picked you up from the station. It's fine. The station isn't far. I've already prepared this chicken for you. You can just cook it. The vegetables are fresh, too. The weather's still cool, so they'll last on the floor for a couple of weeks. You should be able to finish them. After Leo became famous, he had a house built for his father back home. During the housewarming, they had stayed up all night drinking and talking, resolving years of misunderstandings, and finally reconciling. Leo brought up the same topic he always did. Dad, don't live in the countryside anymore. Come live with me. No, his father shook his head. I'm used to the country. And your mother is there. She keeps me company. I sleep better at night. Okay, Leo's lips moved, but in the end, he only managed those two quiet words. The conversation between a Chinese father and son was always so reserved and subtle. They couldn't seem to express love with words, but you could see in their actions. You're going to Ethelberg for a book signing this weekend, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. After those two sentences, the room fell silent again. After a long pause, Charles spoke again. You're not getting any younger. Maybe it's time. Before his father could finish, Leo cut him off. I'll leave it to fate. Okay. Heck yeah. Off to Ethelberg. Airplane emoji. Image before boarding. Talia, you posted an update to her Instagram story. The photo was of her, legs stretched out in a first-class seat, flashing a peace sign at the camera, practically buzzing with energy. In contrast, Leo Miller, in the seat across the aisle, was staring blankly out the window, looking like all the life had been drained out of him. After a moment, Leo raised his hand. A flight attendant immediately walked over, crouching slightly to his level. "Sir, can I get you anything? A bottle of water and a blanket, please." "Of course. Would you like ice with that?" "No, ice is fine." "Right away." As Leo spoke with the flight attendant, the passenger in the seat in front of him turned to glance back. The person was wearing large black sunglasses, a black face mask, and a black baseball cap, so bundled up it was impossible to tell if they were a man or a woman. The person stood up and started walking toward Leo. He'd already noticed them looking at him, and seeing them approach, he instinctively tensed, readying a defensive posture. "You're Leo Miller, right?" The bundled-up person's voice was surprisingly female. Leo's brow furrowed. He didn't answer, instead asking, "Who are you?" The moment he spoke, the woman pulled down her mask and took off her sunglasses. Leo stared at her face, his own expression one of pure shock. "Jessica? The pop star. I'm a huge fan of your work. Can I get your autograph?" Jessica said, taking off her hat and holding it out to him. "I'm Orion's Quill's biggest fan. A gold marker on a black hat might not show up very well." "That's okay." Hearing that, Leo took out his dedicated signing pen and wrote on the brim of her cap, "Orion's Quill." "Actually," Jessica confessed, "I had a friend ask you for a signed book before." "That would be Chloe, right?" "I remember. She mentioned you." "Haha, yep." Jessica nodded. "Jess, what are you doing out of your seat?" Ethan Cole emerged from the airplane lavatory and walked over. He glanced at Leo, and his eyes widened in recognition. "Whoa, you're the author of the Sterling Heirs' Sheltered Heart." Leo looked back at Ethan. "And you're Ethan Cole, the youngest actor to win an Ethelberg Film Award." "Yeah, that's just a title. Doesn't mean much." Ethan pulled a silk pocket square from his shirt pocket. "Mr. Best-selling author, could I get your autograph too?" Don't call me that, Mr. Cole. I'm just a writer." Leo took the pocket square and signed his pen name on the silk. Ethan asked, "Are you headed to Ethelberg for a book signing?" "Yeah," Leo nodded. "What about you two?" Talia suddenly popped her head over the seat. "Leo, you don't know? Ethan's going to be in the TV series based on your book. It's the first part of the Sterling Heirs' Sheltered Heart." "Seriously?" Leo said, surprised. "This is the first I'm hearing of it." "I totally told you last week," Talia pouted, then turned back to the two celebrities. "Can I get your autographs too?" "Of course, no problem," Jessica said with a smile. Ethan nodded at Leo. "It's true. I'm playing the second male lead." Leo smiled back. "Well, that's a real honor." "Not all. The honor is all mine, getting to ride the coattails of a brilliant author." "Ha!" Ethelberg City, the Sycamore Press bookstore. Book signing with best-selling author Leo Miller. "Orion's Quill, I absolutely love your work. Could you make it out to me? What do you want it to say?" "Just sign it, Leanne Forever." "For words?" "That's a premium inscription. It's going to cost you extra." Ha 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 ha. Leo's dry humor made the fans in line laugh. The crowd that had shown up for his signing was huge, especially the female readers, each one seemingly more beautiful than the last. There was no way he could finish in one day, so the event had been split into two. At 5:30 the next afternoon, Leo finally signed the last book. His entire arm was numb, but he couldn't leave yet. At 7, there was a Q&A session, also hosted at the bookstore. After quickly scarfing down some food Talia had brought him, it was 7 o'clock. The Q&A officially began. Fan A. Orion, some people online say your pen name sounds like a brand of cheap plumbing fixtures. What are your thoughts on that? Leo chuckled. I was in my dramatic teen phase when I came up with it. Let's not dwell on it. Fan B. The first part of the Sterling Heir was a total alpha billionaire romance. Why was the second part so different? What made you suddenly decide to make the villainess the protagonist of the sequel? Leo. The first part was about the power struggles of the ultra-rich. For the second part, I wanted to write about ordinary people, ordinary things. The so-called villainous redemption arc was just the surface plot. The real core was about the everyday process of falling in love, about making amends for the past. While I was writing it, I kept asking myself what kind of life I truly wanted, what my original purpose was. Fancy. A lot of us felt the ending was a bit rushed. And the whole plot point with the villain having his henchmen plant bombs to blow up an island felt a little over the top. A lot of readers called it the worst part of the ending, a real shark jumper. How do you explain that? Leo. Because the characters exist inside a novel. So, everything that seems illogical or absurd becomes logical. Aren't those kinds of exaggerated, abrupt plot twists exactly the sort of thing that could only happen in a novel? In reality, that would never happen, right? Leo paused for a noticeable beat on that last word. Fan D. Orion, I've read your ending several times, and I still don't get it. Was a happy ending or not? Leo was silent for a few seconds after hearing the question. Then he continued, what if I told you that Leo Miller and Julianne Hale were, originally, the same person? In the book, Julianne Hale got everything she ever wanted. So, would you call that a happy ending? The statement sent a ripple of shock through the entire room. None of the fans had expected an explanation like that. Another fan shot her hand up, asking excitedly, Mr. Miller, are you saying your character, Leo Miller, didn't die? Or are you saying he was a second personality imagined by the villainess? Leo shook his head. Neither. Someone in the crowd couldn't wait. Then what is it? Leo spoke slowly. Julianne Hale's fate was Leo Miller's fate. When Julianne Hale's life found fulfillment, so did Leo Miller's. They're like two sides of a dream, the self and the ID. The more the fans listened, the more confused they became. Someone else asked, then what about the continuity officer from the book? Logan? Why wasn't he in the finale? Did you forget about him? Or did you just abandon that subplot? Leo covered his face with one hand, a rare curse escaping his lips. Logan, that bastard deserved to die. Time rewinds to the wedding night. Wake up. Where's this? Am I dead? Leo slowly opened his eyes and saw a face that was both familiar and strange. Logan, aren't you dead? Don't worry about that. Logan gave an awkward laugh. Okay, so there's good news and there's bad news. Which do you want to hear first? Leo narrowed his eyes, sizing Logan up. First, tell me if you're dead or alive. Logan looked down, avoiding his gaze. Alive. At that, Leo's hands clenched into fists. So, you had that cop tell me you were dead? You were deliberately messing with me? Of course not. Let me explain. Explain my ass. Leo grabbed Logan by the throat. You bastard. You were playing me, weren't you? Do you have any idea what I've been through? Choke, dying for real this time. Logan's tongue lolled out. This is your punishment for never listening to people when they talk. Leo released his grip. So, what was it you never finished telling me back then? Ready to listen now? Yes, whatever, just tell me. Logan explained, if you forcibly remain in the world of the book, the two separate parallel universes, the authors and the books, will simultaneously collapse and reconstruct. Leo immediately pressed, and the result of that, the good result, is the two worlds merge. You're still you, and the world just becomes a new world. And the bad result is both worlds are obliterated. You destroy two universes at once. After hearing this, Leo said, you're telling me that just because I fell in love with a character and refused to leave, the universe would end because of me? I'm the villain who destroys worlds. That's more or less the gist of it. Jesus, that's a little strict, isn't it? So what's my situation now? Leo looked down at his intact body. Does this mean I've already destroyed the novel's world? And I can't go back to the real world? What about Julianne? What happened to her? See? There's that not listening to people habit again. Logan shrugged. I already told you. I have good news and bad news. Which did you want to hear first? The good news, Leo said immediately. The good news is you got lucky. You chose the right path, and the novel's world didn't collapse. And the bad news? The bad news is you stayed in the book world for too long. Your real-world soul has merged with your in-book soul. So I can go back to the book world. Leo shot to his feet. How is that bad news? Logan shook his head. No, what I mean is your real-world soul is you. But your in-book soul is Julianne Hale. Leo's eyes went wide. Wait, are you saying Julianne and I have merged into one? Yes and no. Logan pulled out his phone and opened Leo's novel on the screen. The world of a novel is a reflection of the author's inner self. And Julianne Hale is the embodiment of another version of you that exists in your heart. So, in essence, you are two sides of the same dream. You're being way too complicated. I don't get it. Leo held his head, feeling dizzy. Just tell me how I can get back to Julianne's side. Well, Logan shook his head again. You probably can't see Julianne again, because just like the Leo Miller in the other world, she's already dead. Hearing Logan's words, the light in Leo's eyes instantly vanished. Is there no way at all? It's not entirely impossible. Logan thought for a moment. Logically speaking, you're the author. The logic of this world was created by you. As long as you can change the logic itself, then the logic becomes logical. And a logic that makes sense becomes the logic. What the hell? Leo was completely lost, listening to Logan's tongue twister. Logic this, logic that. Can you please explain it clearly? Damn, I explained it as clearly as I could, and you still don't get it? Logan rolled his eyes. I seriously don't understand how a guy as dense as you could create a character as brilliant as Julianne Hale. Wait, stop talking nonsense. Why do I feel like my body is disappearing. Oh crap. Sorry, I forgot to tell you our final conversation has a time limit. Logan said, panicking. I shouldn't have wasted so much time. Just remember my words. Make the logic make sense. I'm sorry, everyone, both here and watching online. I apologize, I lost my composure for a moment. Realizing he was still at the Q&A and on a live stream, Leo quickly apologized to the crowd. He glanced at the time. We have about 10 minutes left before the session ends. If you have any more questions, please raise your hands now. Otherwise, you'll have to wait another year. The crowd was still trying to process what Leo had just said, and no one raised their hand. Finally, just as time was about to run out, someone did. Mr. Miller, in your book you mentioned Southern California, which is a place from Leo Miller's world before he entered the book. Why did he end up taking Julianne Hale to see Southern California at the end? Does that mean Southern California also exists in the book world? Isn't that a plot hole? The book world is a world, not just a single city like Ethelberg. It can have a Southern California, a Chicago, a New York. Just because they aren't mentioned doesn't mean they don't exist. How is that a plot hole? Leo smiled faintly and pointed to the poster of himself on the stage behind him. It's like me holding a book signing in Ethelberg City today. Tell me, is the Ethelberg we're in right now the Ethelberg from the book or the Ethelberg from the real world? The logic of his statement was flawless. The fan who asked the question began to applaud. Immediately after, the entire audience rose to their feet, clapping. Leo stood up, gave a deep bow to his fans, and then turned to head up to the VIP area on the second floor of the Sycamore Press bookstore. Once the fans downstairs had cleared out, Talia would come pick him up. Click! Standing on the balcony, Leo lit a cigarette. Tonight, the moon was full, its light bright and cold. It reminded Leo of the vow he'd made on Crescent Bay Beach under this very same moon. Make it big. It seemed he had. But had he really? A logic that makes sense becomes the logic? What the hell was that supposed to mean? Lost in a fog of troubled thoughts, Leo took a long, moody drag from his cigarette. Click! The sound of a camera shutter snapped him out of it. Well, a top romance author, smoking and drinking in private. If this news got out, you'd probably lose quite a few fans, wouldn't you? I make a living with my talent, not by being some pop idol. You can't threaten me. Who do you think you are, my parents? It's none of your business if I smoke and drink, Leo snapped, turning his head irritably toward the sound. The next second, he froze. Oh, has it been so long that I'm not allowed to have a say anymore? Leo Miller, you're getting awfully bold. A woman with long, wavy hair, dressed in a pure white mermaid-style gown, walked toward him. Her waist was as slender as a willow swaying in the breeze. Each step she took a graceful rhythm. The fishtail hem of her dress trailed behind her, rippling like a living thing, adding a unique charm to her movements. She was graceful, bewitching, captivating. She had a pair of soulful, fox-like eyes, deep and enchanting, with a single, heart-shaped beauty mark under her left eye. Her lips were a soft pink, her nose exquisitely shaped. Her cheeks were free of makeup, yet her skin was still fair and radiant, and she carried the faint scent of white camellia. Leo stared at her face, completely mesmerized. He didn't snap out of it until the burning end of the cigarette seared his fingertips. He dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his shoe, and then lunged forward, wrapping his arms around the woman he had longed for day and night. Julianne, it's really you. Thank God it's really you. How are you here? He held her tightly, as if trying to merge her into his very being. Guess why this bookstore is called the Sycamore Press Bookstore? Julianne gently patted his back, repeating the same words he had once said to her. Idiot. Not so tight. I can't breathe. Leo immediately loosened his grip. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her deeply. Moi. With tears welling in his eyes, he asked, How did you appear? Julianne put on an air of casualness. My book signing ended, and I heard some famous romance author was holding a Q&A, so I thought I'd come listen and learn a thing or two. I got here late, and it was already over. When I came up to the second floor, I saw a certain someone smoking. As she spoke, she pinched his ear. Well, Leo Miller, I haven't seen you in a year, and you've already picked up smoking and drinking. And you even had the nerve to say, I have no right to tell you what to do. You've got some gall. Julianne demanded, twisting his ear. I'm your wife. Do I have the right to discipline you or not? Yes. Of course you do. Leo winced. Ow, I was wrong. Babe, stop pulling, it hurts. Oomph. Don't let it happen again. I won't. I'm back. You have to quit smoking now. Okay. You're back, so I don't need to smoke anymore. Leo wrapped his arms around her waist and, like a puppy, rubbed his face against hers again and again. EW, your face is so oily. Get off me. Julianne's words were dismissive, but her body was honest, making no move to pull away. Leo, sniffle. Wifey, I thought I'd never see you again. Julianne, don't you dare cry. I haven't even started crying yet. Sniffle, why are you crying now? It's all your fault. Why did you have to cry? You infected me with it. I'm gonna bite you. Julianne said, and bit his hand. Go ahead, bite me. Bite me to death. EW, has it really been so long that you've unlocked some kind of weird fetish? Hee hee, I just love it when you bite me. You're like a little puppy. You're the little puppy. Julian pinched his side. Didn't you say you were going to take me on a trip to Southern California? When are we going? Tomorrow. We'll go back tomorrow. I'll take you home to meet my parents. Fine. The last wedding was a mess. You have to make it up to me this time. Absolutely. This time we'll take it slow. We'll have a most lavish wedding ever. One that will make Damien Sterling and Serafina rose die of envy. Ha ha, good. Leo, what is it? I plotted against so many people, and in the end, I still failed. I was so tired, but I'm glad. This time, I finally got to betray the world to be with you. Thank you. No, it's me who should be thanking you, my love. Under the moonlight, the two lovers, separated for so long, held each other close. Behind them, their shadows merged, forming the distinct shape of a heart. Within the shadow, 3 words faintly appeared. The END character interviews and the grand finale. The story has come to an end, so now, let's interview the main character from the book. Director Logan, some have said that you didn't really do much in this book. How do you respond to that? Logan, someone said I was the most useless character? That I coasted from the beginning to the end, holding the most powerful role in the game, but just acting like an NPC, and when the final scores came out, my 3.0 rating was clearly just for being carried to a win. Well, let me ask you this. The author deliberately nerfed the system's role and forced me to sit on the sidelines. What was I supposed to do? Is that my fault? Why do you all care so much about the system's rating anyway? The rating system just turns a person's hard work into a number. Director Logan seems a little emotional right now, so let's move on to someone else. Damien Sterling. People say that as the male protagonist of the original book, you barely had any scenes in the finale, and you ended up being saved by a random security guard. Do you have anything to say about that? Damien crooks his mouth into a smirk that's 3 parts rogue, 4 parts cool indifference, and 5 parts carelessness, huh? Who said that? Who dares to speak so boldly of me? I want all of his personal information within 3 minutes. Damien, you have to understand, in the new story, Leo Miller is the protagonist. As the original protagonist, my halo couldn't possibly outshine his. What could I do? As for being saved by a security guard, what's wrong with that? Julianne used Serafina's phone to message me, telling me to come over. I was completely unsuspecting. How was I supposed to know she was hiding behind the door, ready to BM me on the back of the head? I'm telling you, it's a good thing I'm the protagonist and have that plot armor. Otherwise, that one blow would have either killed me or put me in a coma. The whole of Ethelberg would have been attending my funeral. So where's the problem with a security guard saving me? It makes sense, right? I suppose there's some logic to that. The book didn't specify what happened to you, and Serafina rose at the end. I like to ask, how did things turn out for you two? Of course, after I graduated from college, I married Serafina, and just like in the first part of the story, we had a perfect family. As Damien spoke, he wrapped his arm around Serafina, rose, and nuzzled his face against hers, smiling like a fool. Author's note, please stop letting Damien play the fool. He's too good at it. So Ms. Serafina rose, are you satisfied with your ending? Serafina shoves Damien's hand away, angrily satisfied with what? My best friend betrayed me. I almost got myself killed, and even a side character like Jessica got a cameo in the finale, but I didn't, and I ended up marrying this idiot. I'm not satisfied. I'm full of resentment. I want to do over. I want to be reborn too. All right, so for the next book, the author will kill off Damien, and you could be the main female lead. Serafina, wait. No, that's not okay. She hugged Damien's head tightly. He might be an idiot, but he's good to me. I guess I'll keep him. You can't kill him off. Okay then, let's go interview the protagonist friends. Talia, you. Didn't expect that, did you? I coasted all the way to the finale and ended up being the female side character with the most screen time. A lot of people don't seem to like your character, feeling that your increased screen time was because you paid for it. How do you respond to that? Talia, people call me stupid. They said I was an idiot for reporting that bully Nico Sterling, getting myself and my brother hurt. They said I deserved it. Well, let me ask you, is it my fault the dumb author wrote the plot that way? And besides, I reported him secretly, not to his face. How was I supposed to know someone was eavesdropping and would snitch? And that the snitch was the very victim I was trying to help? I was completely backstabbed, okay? What did I do wrong? Why are you all yelling at me? And how dare you curse a hero who bravely stood up to stop campus bullying? If the world had more brave people like me, wouldn't it be a better place? So, why can't a righteous character like me have more scenes? Okay, understood. If Leo Miller made you the protagonist of his next novel, would you be willing? Talia pushes up her glasses. I'm not accepting any romance scripts at the moment. I need to focus on my career, though I might consider it if the male lead is handsome. All right, Tyler, do you have any? Tyler, grinning, I have nothing to say. I really did just get carried to a win. My character's journey was even smoother than the protagonist's. More scripts like this next time, please. Thanks. And Chloe, linking arms with Tyler, I got the younger guy and am enjoying my life as a wealthy woman. Very satisfied. How about Jessica and Ethan Cole? Jessica, thanks to the author for giving me a hottie. I'll write a song for you next time. Ethan Cole, I heard my prequel character was a villain. Can you do a reborn as the vicious male side character spinoff? I'd like to be the protagonist for once, too. I'll discuss that with the author. Now, for the parents of our protagonists, what would you like to say? Charles Miller. To be honest, I time-traveled into the book, too. I got to experience what it's like to be rich. It's just that my mind wasn't always right, and everyone treated me like a fool. Michelle Miller. What book did you travel into? Are you still dreaming? It's bad enough your eyesight is going with age, but now your brain is getting fuzzy, too. Clara Hale. To all you sweethearts out there, please eat well. Take care of yourselves when you're on your own. If you get sick, go see a doctor. Don't wait until it's too late. Trevor Hale. My character was basically born to be a villain. I can only say my acting was great. I won't comment on the rest. Afraid I'll get beat up. Oh, one more thing. Getting your kidney removed without anesthesia? It really, really hurts. Everyone, stay away from gambling, drugs, and other vices, or you'll end up like me. Donovan Sterling. That final move I made was critical, wasn't it? Pretty cool, huh? Mr. Rose. The author didn't give me any lines at the end. I became a background prop. No comment. And now, let's ask the other villainous characters. Marcus Sterling. I did nothing wrong. My father himself said it when he was alive. The air is often sickly. You must strive to do your best. It was perfectly legal for me to inherit the Sterling family. What did I do wrong? Nico Sterling. Go to hell. Get lost. You hit my mother. You deserve to die. They all say I'm crazy. But who wouldn't be crazy if they were born into a family like that? Besides, you don't have to be normal to be alive. Victor Jiang. Of the 4 great families, only the Jiangs were wiped out. Why? I refuse to accept it. Jason Jiang. Look, I just wanted to be a normal person. Why is no one around me normal? Are you all trying to force me to be a villain? Finally, let's interview our true male and female leads. Leo Miller. For a long time, I did a lot of foolish things. Looking back now, it seems ridiculous. But if I think about it carefully, if I could do it all over again, given my state of mind back then, I'd probably make the same decisions. What I mean is, don't beat yourselves up over mistakes you've made. Looking back, things that once felt like the end of the world don't seem so bad now. If you feel tired, stop and rest for a while, then continue your journey. I hope Julianne's and my story can give you strength. Julianne Hale. What is all this sentimental rambling? When did you get so corny? Leo. It's called being reflective, you know? Julianne. No. But, speaking of which, after everything, I've come to understand one thing. Leo, what's that? Julianne. Now that my Lily is back, I have no time to explain myself. You can all just drop dead. Leo grabs her by the collar. Stop messing around. Honey. Last but not least, let's interview our true author, Supreme Evil. Supreme Evil. They all said I write tragedy. They all said my endings can't be happy. Am I that kind of person? I told you I was writing a sweet, romantic story, but you wouldn't believe me. So, haters, where you at now? And for the other side characters, we won't interview them individually. Let's just get a group photo. Leo, that's a wrap, everyone. Come on, picture time. Julianne, I want to be in the center. Damien, hang on. Let me just comb my hair into a more adult style. Serafina, stop being an idiot and get over here. Logan, all of you move. I should be the one in the center. Okay, this time it's really, really over.